Half an hour here on BBC Three Counties Radio with Iain Lee. Major changes to the disability benefit system start to take effect today. The disability living allowance is being gradually replaced with the new personal independence payment, starting with new claimants in the north of England. Ministers say claimants should get a more fairer assessment, but the disability charity Scope says a financial lifeline's being cut and 600,000 people will eventually lose their support. Locally, supermarket chain Sainsbury has been accused of holding on to retail space in Milton Keynes Centre. It comes as it still has an empty building it vacated 4 years ago. With Waitrose now vacating the centre, it's feared the store's former shop, Food Centre, is seen as unattractive by retailers. Well, Sainsbury says it's been investigating a number of options with its landlords for the future use of the unit, but there are still issues which need to be sorted first. A post-mortem's due to take place later on a man's body which was discovered in the canal in Leighton Buzzard yesterday. Police say they're not treating his death as suspicious and are carrying out investigations to try to establish his identity. Police believe a fire at a Luton primary school at the weekend was started deliberately. A first-floor classroom at Downside School was damaged in the blaze on Saturday evening. Scientists from the University of Warwick say they've found a way of cutting the amount of fat in chocolate by half. Until now, it's been difficult to remove it without changing the texture, but researchers say they can now take out the fat and replace it with another liquid. Jason Palmer has the details.
The trick, it seems, is to use agar, a widely available gelling agent. Thoroughly blended bits of it, the Warwick researchers say, act as tiny sponges that soak up any liquid: fruit juice, plain water, even alcohol.
In sport, MK Dons remained 7 points off the playoffs in League One after getting only a goalless draw from visitors Crawley at the weekend. Weather, and we're going to see the chance of a few isolated showers, but most places dry. Temperatures 8 degrees Celsius. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio first for news.
Good morning, dear listener. Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. No need to panic. I know exactly what's going on here. I'm not just sitting here having a chat with my team. No, I know what's going on. And what is going on this morning? Hang on a second. Lots. And can I just say, this show is presented by a new, cured, speed-aware driver. Yeah, my speed awareness driving course on Friday. Wasn't as much fun as you all told me it was going to be. If anything, I would say it was a little bit dull. A little bit dull. 4 hours of really boring speed awareness talks. Oh, yeah. The guy that took it was a character. But I am cured. I'm actually cured. And I no longer don't speed anymore. Why would I? I know the stats. I don't remember the stats, but I remember being told the stats. And basically, speed is bad. Lots coming up this morning, including Bedfordshire Police have apologised after a woman was handcuffed for demanding to see her medical notes. Our reporter Lorna Hankin has been following the story and she'll be joining us next. A Luton woman has come to this programme to warn you about a new type of scam. She doesn't want other people to fall victim to the same trick. When you hear it, it's quite incredible what these cheeky scamsters did. I'll tell you what in the next half an hour. And we'll find out why Bedford could put itself on the map. Technically, it is on maps already, otherwise people wouldn't go there. As the place where King Offa was laid to rest. Yes, King Offa. No, I hadn't heard of him until Friday either, but we'll hear more about King Offa shortly. Lots of ways to get in touch. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Or, look, the phone lines are completely free. Who's going to be the first person to call in? 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, a 67-year-old woman who was handcuffed for demanding to see her medical notes has received an apology from Bedfordshire Police. Mary Kurswell went to Biggleswade Health Centre to check for corrections following a mix-up with another patient's details. Our reporter Lorna Hankin has been following this story. Good morning, Lorna.
Morning.
Explain what happened.
Well, Mrs. Kurswell is a retired scientist from Biggleswade. She said that she was telephoned by Biggleswade Health Centre in October saying her kidney condition demanded an urgent urine test. Now, she told them she was perfectly healthy, but the surgery was adamant her records showed she was a heavy smoker, suffered from Alzheimer's disease, had a kidney condition, had undergone a hysterectomy and a double hip replacement.
Gosh, that's a list of predicaments. What happened then?
Well, she went to the surgery to ask for her full 43-page long medical notes, but after allegedly being told the manager was unavailable and she'd have to wait, she refused to leave. Now, a police community support officer then came to the surgery and asked her to leave, but she said she'd already paid £10 to access the information. She was then handcuffed and escorted out of the building. She was unable to see her full medical records and staged a sit-in protest, but police were called and she was escorted out in handcuffs.
What did the police say at the time?
Well, Bedfordshire Police said officers attended the practice in Saffron Road over reports of a breach of the peace and that handcuffing was standard practice, but they have since apologised over the handling of the case. Now, Chief Inspector Mark Upex said, "I have spoken with Mrs Kurzweil on 2 occasions, and while she does not wish to make a formal complaint, she did raise some concerns about the actions taken by the officers. I've agreed with her that officers could have acted in a less intrusive manner and have apologised to her for this. The officers involved have been spoken to and advised about their future conduct." Mrs Kurzweil was satisfied with this outcome.
Handcuffing a 67... Was she 67? Handcuffing a woman like that does seem a little bit extreme. What has Mary Kurzweil said about it?
Well, since then, she's registered with another practice and she's told BBC...
You would do, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think you probably would. She's told BBC News Online, "I think they've been very honest about it and apologetic and more to the point, bring it to the attention of the staff concerned so they know in future just how to react in a similar situation."
And have the health centre given us a response?
No, Biggleswade Health Centre was unavailable for comment when approached by BBC News.
Lorna, thank you. Have you ever been handcuffed or staged a sit-in protest?
Not by the police, no.
Lorna Hankin, thank you very much for revealing a little bit more about her life than I was expecting. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. I do like the idea of a sit-in protest. I'm not moving until I get what I want. 08459 455 555. 2 questions. Ever been handcuffed by the police, for goodness sakes, or staged a sit-in protest? 08459 455 555. I do like the idea of just sitting there. Not going until I get what I want.
I play the street life because there's no place I can go. Street life, it's the only life I know. Street life, and there's 1,000 parts to play. Street life, until you play your life away. You let the people see just who you wanna be, and every night you shine just like a superstar. That's how the life is played, a tempting masquerade. You dress, you walk, you talk,
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, 08459 455 555. For those concerned, I did go on my speed awareness course on Friday. It was all right. It wasn't the laugh riot that some of my listeners had led me to believe it was going to be. I mean, it was long, 4 hours. The gentleman taking it made it as bearable as possible. He was a bit of a character. I always, a little bit of me dies inside when I'm being spoken to for 4 hours by a character, but he made it more bearable than I expected. It was certainly better than getting 3 points, and it was an eye-opener, and I've learnt my lesson. That's my wrist being slapped, and I shan't be doing it again. Although one fella, straight after the course, zoomed off. I saw him going down a 30 miles an hour road easily at 50. One thing I did learn, on dual carriageways, unless it's signposted, you can go 70. I always thought it was 60. So I've actually learned that on some roads, I'm allowed to go a little bit faster than I thought. So if anything, I certainly am more speed aware. But my lesson has been learnt. Thank you for everyone who gave me tips and advice. They wanted to charge me £1 per cup of Nescafe. I told them to jog on. I said, I'm not paying £1 for a Nescafe. I sat at the back next to a lovely lady called Claire, and we kind of joked. We joked our way through it a bit, although she wouldn't stop talking. It was like being at school, and she wouldn't stop talking. And the teacher kept giving us dirty looks. And in the interval, I went up and said, I do apologise, it's the woman next to me. She won't shut up. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call this morning. We'll be talking scams in a little bit. I'm keen to get your stories of when and how you've been scammed. It's the perennial, isn't it? Every now and then a new scam pops up, and just when you think you've got all the scams covered, something new and even more ridiculous comes up. The scam we've got today, it's one of those, when you hear it, you go, I can't believe anyone was so stupid. I cannot believe anyone was so stupid that they'd fall for that. But the fact that it is so bizarre and odd makes me think that some people would fall for it, and the lady involved certainly did fall for it. Keep listening, because a little bit later in the show, Justin Dealey will be telling us about one lady, elderly lady, who was tricked in the most... Well, I think that one of the cheekiest scams I've ever heard in my life. How have you been scammed? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. You can go to the Facebook page as well, facebook.com/BBC3CR. But look, 6:15 on the nose. Let's go and get the latest travel news, shall we?
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. So far, things are looking pretty good. We've had no accidents reported. Things are running well along the major routes. The motorways certainly are clear. And the A40's looking pretty good as well. You'll find some temporary traffic lights, though, if you're driving through High Wycombe. They're doing roadworks near Queen's Road. In Amersham, temporary lights are up on the A404 Stanley Hill for some telecoms work near the junction with London Road East. And if you're going to be driving at all along the A5, once you get to Fenny Stratford at the Little Chef roundabout, they're still doing roadworks there to improve the roundabout and add traffic lights, and it can get quite busy at times. Trains so far are looking good. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Adam. Right, 6:16, it's Monday the 8th of April. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Police have apologised to a 67-year-old Biggleswade woman after they handcuffed her for demanding to see her medical notes. A Luton woman is warning people about a telephone scam which is operating where people are fooled into handing over bank details. And MK Dons remain 7 points off the playoffs in League One after getting only a goalless draw from visitors Crawley. Have Crawley got a football team? The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks. The chance of a few isolated showers, but most places will stay dry. Some bright intervals are also likely. Maximum temperature is 8 degrees. Coming up, Sainsbury's has been accused of strangling prime retail space in the centre of Milton Keynes by holding onto a building it vacated 4 years ago. We'll hear more before 6:30.
BBC Three Counties Radio. Nick Coffer on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Every weekday between 12 and 3, I'm here with a little bit of celebrity.
I'll always love being a comedian because it's my job, so I'm going to keep doing that.
I was voted Japan's #1 male vocalist of the year, and I beat out Frank Sinatra. How's that?
Expert advice.
It does sound like it's a mechanical pain brought on by altered mechanics in your upper limb.
Your capital's protected because I'm guessing what you don't want to do is take any risks with the capital itself.
And loads of really great music.
Nick Coffer, weekdays from 12 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
I met Elkie Brooks once. She was delightful but completely bonkers.
Everywhere I go, I see your face. We used to know. I pass a place we used to go when you were mine. Since you went away, my heart's not free. It keeps on raining down on me. Will there be a day when the sun will shine? I wanna see the sunshine after the rain. I wanna see bluebirds flying over the mountain again. Oh, where is the silver lining shining at the rainbow's end? When I hear your name, I start to cry. Each day's the same since your goodbye. It's like a game forgetting you. Every night I pray. Tomorrow brings a sunny day and a happy thing, just like the way it used to be for you and me. I wanna see the sunshine after the rain. I wanna see bluebirds flying over the mountain again. Oh, where is the silver lining shining at the rainbow's end? Everywhere I go, I see a face we used to know. I pass a place we used to go when you were mine. Since you went away, my heart's not free. It keeps on raining down on me. Will there be a day when the sun will shine? I wanna see the sunshine after the rain. I wanna see bluebirds flying over the mountain again. Oh, where is the silver lining shining at the rainbow's end? I wanna see bluebirds flying over the mountain again.
A little bit of Elkie Brooks. You can't go wrong with a little bit of Elkie Brooks, can you? Wonderful, but completely mad. Now, Sainsbury's has been accused of strangling prime retail space in the centre of Milton Keynes by holding on to a building it vacated 4 years ago. Residents and councils have expressed concern that the store's former shop in the food centre has been left empty since the new store in town opened in 2008. With Waitrose now vacating the centre, it's feared that the food centre is seen as unattractive by retailers. These residents told our reporter, Paul Scoynes, what they thought about the empty supermarket.
It's a complete waste of resource. There's other shops that have been trying to get into the city centre for years and they've kept them out, like Primark. And they've got this big building empty. It's also keeping out competition, which is probably the point of it.
I find it with the buses, it's more awkward to get to the new one than it was to get to this one.
With Waitrose going now, that's another shop out of this building, and this was a landmark food centre when it opened in the 80s. What do you think about this whole building being empty?
Yeah, it's disgusting. Where are we supposed to go for food shopping? unless we've got transport to go to the other one.
Because you do have to have a car now, really, don't you? You can't be in town and do your weekly shop.
Personally, I shop out of town because I drive, but my mum's an old age pensioner and relies on the free bus pass, and it's a lot easier for her to get into the city than to go all the way in the opposite direction out of her area to the new ones that they've built, because this is nearer to where she lives.
What would you like to see happen to this building eventually?
Well, a new supermarket. You know, whether it be Sainsbury's, Asda, Tesco's, anybody, as long as it's a supermarket. Because without Waitrose, we've got nothing.
Well, Paul Scoynes is outside the empty store now. Good morning, Paul. Paul, where are you? Paul?
Good morning.
Paul, you're there? Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah,
Sorry, look at that.
I am here.
I do apologise, my fault. Well, tell me the background to this.
Well, Iain, as you might have heard, the food centre here opened in the late 80s. It was owned then by the Development Corporation, as much of Milton Keynes was, I suppose, in those days. It was then sold on to the people who now own the Centre MK, the main shopping centre in Milton Keynes. And Waitrose and Sainsbury's were the two main retailers, and there were some specialist shops alongside it, and then Iceland, where I'm just sitting down outside, came along later on. And in 2008, Sainsbury's decided to relocate, built a new store closer to the train station, just down the road from here, and it closed this store, but the lease remained. And since then, nothing has happened to it. I'm just looking at the old building now, and all that's in there is an empty shop floor and the cigarette counter.
So that's it? It's all a bit barren there, is it?
Absolutely. I mean, to all intents and purposes, this is a pretty empty building now. I mean, you've got a huge floor space. It was a big shop, this Sainsbury's, when it was there. All the livery's still on the building. The faded Sainsbury's sign's been taken down, but you can still see where it remained. You can see all the windows. Some have been put through. There's wood on some of the windows. It's a fairly unattractive-looking store now.
And Paul, Waitrose is going as well, is it?
That's right. Waitrose is moving out of town. It's moving to a new store that it's building in Oak Grove. And word was that Waitrose actually wanted to expand into the food centre as well and keep it going. There was talk of a cafe perhaps as well, although that's not been really talked about publicly, but it was certainly going to sort of try and have some sort of presence here. There was even talk of it moving next to the big John Lewis store, although that is not happening. It's certainly going to be moved out of the town centre, and when that does happen, which will be in a couple of months' time now, Iain, that will mean that this building, this flagship food store building, when Milton Keynes was sort of in its sort of infancy in the 80s, will now be 80% empty.
What? Why? Do we know why?
Not really, no. I mean, there are lots of rumours about why Sainsbury's has decided to keep this lease running for as long as it has. As you heard from the lady there, she said that, freezing out other competition. Sainsbury's hasn't really given us very much to go on. A spokesman's told us that they're investigating a number of options with the landlords, because they are effectively, renting this store. They say that, unfortunately, despite a number of interested parties, there remains issues to be resolved before any new occupation can be concluded.
It could be argued, couldn't it, Paul, sorry? Tell that bird to shut up. It could be argued, couldn't it, that Sainsbury's is holding on to this building to keep this area empty?
Well, it would certainly act in their interests, wouldn't it, I suppose? You've got a major Sainsbury's just down the road from here, although it's a fair walk. It will take you about 15 minutes walk from this place to get to their new store. A cynic could say that it suits them well to not have an Asda or a Morrison's or a Tesco here, which would certainly be attractive to people who are coming to the centre of Milton Keynes.
What about the owners? The owners who they are leasing it from, a Centre MK, what have they said?
Well, they've just said that they're continuing to work with Sainsbury's to try and find a solution. They say that they've got a long-standing commitment to Milton Keynes, having just invested around £47 million on new refurbishments to their main supermarket. I mean, what Sainsbury's have said is that now Waitrose is leaving the adjacent unit. They say that it presents a new opportunity to explore different sort of options with the landlord. So we'll wait and see whether or not that actually forces them to do something else.
Paul Scoynes outside the food centre in Milton Keynes. Thank you very much. Well, Linda Inoki is from the pressure group Explain, who take a keen interest in the city centre of Milton Keynes. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning.
Linda, do you think the situation with Sainsbury's holding on to an empty building is right?
No, it's plainly wrong. I mean, it might be good for their balance sheet, because obviously the lease they have is worth something. It's a prime location, but it's certainly bad for Milton Keynes.
What do you think the food centre being empty says to other retailers and shoppers?
Well, it might put people off, but on the other hand, shopping as an economic business is very good in Milton Keynes. Milton Keynes is the 10th most successful shopping centre in the country. It's more profitable to trade in Milton Keynes than it is in Knightsbridge, apparently.
Oh, I say, very fancy. What would you like to see happen, Linda?
Well, we'd like to see either this building brought back to life by being reinvented as a modern, up-to-date food centre, or, maybe even demolished and redesigned if it needs to be redesigned. But it was designed as a food centre. Let's put it this way. This is the first time in Milton Keynes' history that we have had no supermarket in our central shopping area. How crazy is that?
And with Waitrose, as Paul was just saying then, with Waitrose moving out, that building, that area, will be 80% empty. That's not a good message to be giving out, is it?
No, and the area really does look blighted, as you probably hear with the crows.
Yes, sounded very desolate.
It looks blighted. It's an eyesore, and it's been an eyesore for 4 years since Sainsbury's have moved out. I mean, according to our local paper, and I've heard this on the street too, Sainsbury's is paying £1 million a year, around that figure, in service charges just to keep the store empty. It's got to be because they want to keep competition out of the city centre, but it's just not right.
They're paying £1 million a year to keep that place empty?
That is the word on the street, and it was, it's been reported in our local paper this weekend.
That's incredible. Linda Inoki from the Pressure Group explained. Thank you very much indeed. Well, if you've seen if you live in Milton Keynes, you would have seen the food centre. What do you think about this? 08459 455 555. It would appear that Sainsbury's is keeping this empty to stop competition. That can't be fair, can it? And that can't be good for Milton Keynes. 08459 455 555 is the phone number. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Right, let's get the latest travel news now. Here's Adam.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Cheers, Iain. A412 in Denham Avenue. Temporary traffic lights are up for electricity work near Tilehouse Lane. We've also got works in St Albans along Folly Lane. Water main works still continuing through to the end of this week near Westview Road. In Bedford, things, they're looking okay on the speed sensors for the moment, but on the A6 we do have works near the junction with Rope Walk and London Road. It's starting to get a little bit slow in Dunstable, maybe heading away from the A505 down toward the M1, but certainly nothing you could call a bit of a queue, really. It's looking fine. M1 itself is looking clear as well, and no M25 delays yet this morning. On the trains, London Midland are running replacement buses, I'm afraid, between Watford Junction and St Albans Abbey along that branch line because of staff shortages. Disruption until about 10:15 this morning, London Midland are advising. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thanks very much. 6:30, time for the news and sport now. Here's Serena Farrow.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Police have apologised to a 67-year-old Biggleswade woman after they handcuffed her for demanding to see her medical notes. Elsewhere, a Luton woman's warning people about a telephone scam which is operating where people are fooled into handing over bank details. Supermarket chain, as we've been hearing, Sainsbury's, has been accused of holding on to retail space in Milton Keynes Centre. It still has an empty building there it vacated 4 years ago. And major changes to the disability benefit system to take effect today. That's all the news. Now let's turn to the sport.
Beds, Herts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
So after Saturday's goalless draw at home to Championship leaders Cardiff, Hornets boss Gianfranco Zola says his side is in a comfortable position ahead of their next match on the road to Peterborough.
You can't afford to make any mistakes because we might take advantage of that. So that's what I'm looking. No pressure with us because we are happy and very pleased with the position we are playing. We are playing right now. We've done everything we could and we carry on until the end, and the pressure is not certainly on us.
Turning to League One, and hopes for making the playoffs remain slim after MK Dons were unable to get a win. They had a goalless draw against visitors Crawley, but with the strength of his side, manager Carl Robinson's still hopeful.
I think the way we've been this year with these players coming back fit, I had to make changes once again with Pauli because they weren't fit to finish the games off, but the group looks stronger and stronger, and I think they're only going to get better and better. I just hope it's not too late.
Staying with League One, and Stevenage remain unbeaten under the returning manager after a draw against Portsmouth. Despite being unable to score past Portsmouth, it gave Borough a second consecutive clean sheet. Graham Wesley's happy with that.
I've been really pleased with their response and their reaction, and particularly pleased with the attitude that they're showing. They're really applying themselves, and there's some very good players at the club.
And finally, Luton will remain in the conference next season after a loss to Gateshead puts them mathematically out of reach of the playoffs. Their hopes were already slim, but the 5-1 loss away to Gateshead sealed their fate. BBC Three Counties Radio, more from me at 7.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
We've got a story of an incredible scam that was perpetrated on a lady living in Luton. It's incredible. When you hear it, the cheek of these people. Justin Dealey has been to meet her, and we'll be finding out more shortly. And also, we'll find out why Bedford could put itself on the map as the place where King Offa was laid to rest. No, me neither. We've been asking about handcuffs this morning. Have you been handcuffed by the police? I haven't. Do you know, I've got quite a few regrets in my life. We'll do this as a phone-in one day. Regrets. One of my regrets is I didn't bunk off school. I never bunked off school. I wish I had. Never did. I would love to. Looking back, I think, if I just bunked off a few days, gone into London, or, you know, gone and done something instead of going to school, I would probably still be sat here today. Wouldn't have made any difference whatsoever. Another regret I've got is I never spent the night in a police cell. Or been handcuffed. April has texted in. I've been handcuffed by the police once. My sister is an officer, and she was showing us her gear after she qualified. She volunteered me. Never again. Ever been handcuffed by the police? 08459 455 555.
Still feels like a first night together. Feels like the first kiss. It's getting better, baby. No one can better this. We're still holding on. You're still the one. First time our eyes met, same feeling I get. Only feels much stronger. And I wanna love you longer. You still turn the fire on. So if you're feeling lonely, don't. You're the only one I ever was. I only wanna make it good. So if I love you a little more than I should, please forgive me. I know now what I do. Please forgive me. I can't stop loving you. Don't deny me this pain I'm going through. Please forgive me. I need you like I do. Please believe me. Every word I say is true. Please forgive me. I can't stop loving you. Still feels like our best times are together. Feels like the first touch. We're still getting closer, baby. Can't get close enough. Still holding on. You're still number one. I remember the smell of your skin. I remember everything. I remember all your moves. I remember you, yeah. I remember the nights, you know I
cannot forgive you for crimes against music, Brian. I just can't. You've committed far too many. Now, when you dial 999 because you believe you've been the victim of credit card fraud, you think you're safe. But what happens when criminals have even fooled you into thinking that you've dialed 999 when you haven't? Well, this happened to one woman from Luton, Sylvia Edwards. She wants to tell her story so others don't fall for the same trick. Justin Dealey went to meet her.
I got this phone call from this gentleman who claimed he was from Barclays Fraud Department. He told me to look on the back of my debit card and there would be a number of lost and stolen to report, and there was indeed. And he said I should ring that number and ask for Mr. Dewani. So I rang the number and asked Mr. Dewani, and I got put through to this gentleman who said that my card had been used in Selfridges to the tune of £1,000 and also in Argos to the tune of £1,000. But they'd apprehended the people and they had them in custody. So they needed to act quick because they could only hold them for a few hours. So I should go down to my bank and draw out £6,000. And I said, well, I can't do that. And it's now 20 to 5. I said, my bank would be closed anyway. Well, I didn't go to my bank. And I just left it. And they rang back about 5:15. And they said, well, have you got the money? And I said, no, the bank was closed. I didn't get the money. And going back, recapping a little bit on it, when I spoke to them in the afternoon, they said that I should dial 999 if I didn't believe them. And so I did dial 999. And they said, when you get through, say it's not really an emergency, but you want to speak to an Amish Roy at the Charing Cross Fraud Squad. So this is what I did. And again, I got another Indian gentleman who said, yes, we've been waiting for your call, and this is definitely true. Your card has been used, and we have got the suspects in custody. He said, and so go back to speak to this gentleman at Barclays Fraud Squad. So I did. I phoned them back. And he said, now, I must know that I'm speaking to Mrs. Edwards, so I need to do a security check with you. So he asked me my date of birth, my mother's maiden name, what regular payments I make. So straight away now he's got all my security details.
Yeah.
So then he said, since you couldn't get the money out of the bank, he said, what you do, have you got a plain envelope? I said, yes. And he said, put the cards, because I've got 2 accounts with Barclays, put the cards into an envelope with 2 bank statements from each account, and a courier will call to collect it. So in about 15 minutes, so 15 minutes pass, and sure enough, got another call. He's outside. It appeared to be a minicab, and I handed him, with my stupidity, the envelope with my bank statements and the cards.
Now, by this point, you were in a panic and
Yes,
you were
I
doubting yourself.
I was.
So you phoned your son. You couldn't speak to your son, but you spoke to his partner. What did she say to you?
She said, oh, I think you've been scammed. I said, what do you mean? I said, oh no. She said, you haven't given them yet. I said, yes, they've just taken them about 5 minutes ago. So she said, look, I've got the number. I look up them quickly. I said, I can't look up the number of anything. But this time I was hysterical. So she got the number of the police. She said, don't ring on your house phone, ring on the mobile. So I rang Bedfordshire Police on the mobile, and they said, well, ring Barclays Bank. I said, I can't because they've got all my details. So happily, there was somebody there that knew the helpline number, and I quickly rang them, gave them the sorry story, and she said, don't tell me you've given them your cards and your bank statements.
Yeah.
She said, quick, let me check. Nothing's gone out. Nothing's gone out from your account, of either of your accounts. I'm going to block it.
Well, that was Justin Dealey speaking to a victim of an incredible, cheeky scam there, Sylvia Edwards. Justin joins me now. Good morning, Justin.
Hello, Ian.
It's one of those things you just think, well, how can someone be so, and I'm going to say it's stupid, but when you're vulnerable and trusting and it sounds so convincing, you can fall for these things. What happened afterwards? Did the scammers try and contact her again?
Yes, they did that evening at about 10 o'clock at night. As soon as Sylvia passed the phone to her husband, the phone went down immediately.
Right.
And some people may be thinking, well, how could she fall for this? Because as far as she's concerned, she thought she was phoning 999. She thought she was phoning Barclays. We can't give too many details. Let's just say that call was intercepted. It's all to do with the way the phone line goes down. So you think you're making a fresh call, you think you are phoning the police, but sadly you're not.
You're still on the line to the people you're talking to.
And you're talking directly to the scamsters.
Oh, dear. Why is she talking about this now, Justin?
Well, she's been through a lot of pain. This happened on late Thursday afternoon, so she's coming forward. She wants to tell her story because she doesn't want other people to go through what she's been through. She's been through hell. She feels very, very silly. She can't believe it's happened to her. She's always been so careful in the past, so she thinks, well, if it's happened to me, this could happen to other people. She wants to get the message out. These scamsters, they're out there, and they might be coming for you. So if somebody phones you, and again, they're asking you for these details, just simply put the phone down, because a bank would never, ever ask for your PIN number, and they certainly would never, ever turn up at your door to collect your card.
That's the thing that gets me, is that these men were cheeky enough to turn up at her front door.
I mean, I've never heard that before.
No.
I've heard all sorts of scams on the phone. That's nothing new. But the fact you're putting your card, your PIN numbers, your statements, your chequebook into an envelope, somebody then comes to your front door, to your property, and you hand that over. Personally, I don't know anybody who's fallen for that. But hopefully we can make a difference, and Sylvia will be joining you live on the show after 7.
Justin, thank you very much indeed. Sylvia will be joining after 7. I'll also be speaking to Paul Wilson from BBC's Real Hustle to find out more about this scam and others. He's a naughty man. He's a very naughty man. And I want to hear from you this morning. What scams can you warn us about? This seems, just when you think you've heard them all, something like this crops up. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. 6:45. Oh, 6:45. Here's the travel news now. Adam Glynn.
Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
There was I thinking I was getting some new music. Right, M1.
Sorry, Adam, no, you're stuck with this nonsense. I do apologise.
It's fine, Ian. M1, southbound. We've had a couple of calls. Reports of an accident. Apparently one lane is blocked off by a multi-vehicle accident between junction 11 at Dunstable and 10 for the Luton Airport Spur Road. But if we can get any further updates on that, that would be massively useful. So if anyone's driving down there, can see what's going on, if it's safe to do so, give us a call. 08459 455 555. M25 anti-clockwise, it's looking slow from the M1 to the A41 and then again from the M40 to the M4. The A1 in Boreham Wood is starting to build up between Stirling Corner and Apex Corner, and good news for the trains because London Midland have managed to sort things much earlier than they thought, and a normal service is resumed between Watford Junction and St Albans Abbey. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Adam. Right, 6:46, Monday the 8th of April. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. Police have apologised to a 67-year-old Biggleswade woman who wanted to see her medical notes for handcuffing her. A Luton woman duped by telephone scam in which she was fooled into handing over her bank details has spoken out about the incident. And Luton will remain in the conference next season after a loss to Gateshead puts them mathematically out of reach of the playoffs. Coming up, we'll find out why Bedford could put itself on the map as the place where King Offa was laid to rest. Find out more before 7. But now let's get the latest weather. It's Kate Kinsella.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The weekend.
Kate, let me stop you there. No, I'm sorry.
What now?
Oh, I had the wrong fader open. We missed your opening.
Oh.
You switched from fader 3. You switched from fader 3 to fader 2 without telling me, Kate. Naughty. So
sorry.
No, it's your fault as well. So let's start again. Let's get the full Kate Kinsella experience here on BBC Three Counties Radio. Away you go.
Thank you very much. Well, we all saw a touch of spring over the weekend. The welcome appearance of the sunshine put us all in a very good mood. However, it's a bit of a different feel today and, in fact, for the next week. It's rather grey, rather cloudy, and with it some wet and windy weather. Now, temperatures outside at the moment, for some of us, actually dipping below freezing. So we have got 1 or 2 pockets of frost out there, out in parts of Buckinghamshire and up towards Bedford as well. We're looking at some frost, temperature down to -1. But we have got rather a lot of cloud and also a bit of a breeze as well. Now, this easterly breeze making things feel rather cold, especially when we get an isolated shower spell, which is likely through the course of the day, and temperatures struggling up to 8 Celsius, 46 degrees in Fahrenheit. Now, we will still have 1 or 2 showers first thing tonight, but it will dry out and it will leave a mostly dry night. 1 or 2 clearer spells, but becoming more cloudy as we head through the majority of the night, particularly towards the early hours of tomorrow morning and into dawn tomorrow. And the wind will start to pick up as well. That will put pay to most frost. Temperatures down to 1 Celsius, 34 degrees in Fahrenheit. And we're hanging on to occasional rain tomorrow. There's a fairly hefty weather front moving up from the south, but by the time it gets up to us in Buckinghamshire and elsewhere, it breaks up. So only occasional rain tomorrow, but that brisk northeasterly wind will continue to make things feel cold, and temperatures struggling again, only getting up to 7 for Tuesday. That's your forecast.
Thank you very much, and apologies, Kate, and next time we're going to get you right from the very start. I'll do my best.
My apologies. My fault, I'm sure.
It was actually mine, but Kate, you're very good. Thank you very much.
Tackling your consumer problems.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
My son took it back to the garage. The mechanic says, yeah, I know what it is. So they took it in, done what they had to do, and the car was still the same, still doing the same thing.
The JVS Show.
Fighting for your rights.
The long and short of it is, he agreed that he would replace the car.
If you have a consumer problem,
we can do the same for you.
I'd like to thank you and your team for everything you've done. We wouldn't have got where we got without you.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to call that a result. Any other problems, you know where I am, Stuart.
The JVS Show.
Fighting for your rights.
Weekday mornings from 9 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
08459 455 555. A little bit of Neil Sedaka. Why not? Oh, I've not heard this for ages.
That's when the music takes me to a brighter day. That's when the music takes me, helping me to find my way. When the day is so long that I can't hold on. When I'm down and I think my hope is gone. Oh yeah, that's when the music takes me closer to a brighter day. I can feel my soul exploding. There's a good feeling helping me to find my way, my way. When the bluebird sings her sad, sad song, and the wind brings a cold to tag along. Oh yeah, I can feel the spirit move me. I can almost touch the sky, reaching for a new tomorrow. I know it's hard, but music makes me wanna try. And then that's when the music takes me to a brighter day. Yeah, yeah. That's when the music takes me, helping me to find my way. That's when the music takes me. That's when the music takes me closer to a brighter day. I can feel my soul exploding. There's a good feeling helping me to find my way. Yeah, 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 yeah. And then I'm saying, that's when the music takes me to a brighter day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's when the music takes me, helping me to find my way. Happy, happy, happy day. Happy, happy, happy day. Happy, happy, happy day. Ooh, music takes me. That's when the music takes me. That's when the music takes me. And that's when the music takes me. Happy, happy.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. A little bit of Neil Sedaka there, always Very toe-tapping music from Neil Sedaka. A very odd-looking pop star, wasn't he? He looked like a big potato in a jumpsuit. He did, but he wrote some wonderful songs. Wonderful. Now, tourism in Bedford could get a boost if the town can lay claim to the burial place of the Saxon King Offa, which a local resident claims is close to the Star Rowing Club. Well, we'll hear from Eric Compton in around an hour from now. He's certain that there's every reason for Bedford to put itself on the map as the place where King Offa was laid to rest. But before that, let's talk to Alan Hay, who's a member of Ringworm, which is the Bedfordshire branch of the Vikings Reenactment Society. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Ian.
Now, listen, I must be honest, my Viking knowledge it's got some gaps in it. Who was King Offa and why should we celebrate him?
Well, King Offa was a very famous king of the Anglo-Saxon line. He was what was called a Bretwalder, which is a high king. And he was king of Mercia, which Bedfordshire was within the kingdom of Mercia, which stretched from Derbyshire to London and from Cambridgeshire to the Wales border, so people might know the name from Offa's Dyke.
Ah, of course. Now, the claims are being made by this gentleman, Mr. Compton, that he could be buried close to the Star Rowing Club. Are there any facts to back this up?
Well, there's some recorded facts that King Offa was returning from an abbey that he'd founded in St Albans and was taken ill and died near Hitchin at a place that was renamed Offley. And that was in July 796. And his body, interestingly, was then taken to Bedford and interned in a chapel on the banks of the River Ouse. But unfortunately for us, we know that several hundred years later, the chapel was washed away in a flood.
Ah.
But it's quite exciting to think that Bedford was the burial place of an ancient king, and a king who was really high regarded throughout all of Europe. And Bedford was his final resting place.
Now, Alan, you would imagine that Bedford would be milking the connection with King Offa for all it's worth. Is there anything at all in place to establish these links with King Offa?
Well, there's several ancient manuscripts that record these facts about King Offa, and it's when we think that York has got a Viking festival and Chester's got a Roman festival, just based on the fact that these people were there, Bedford could easily have something like an Anglo-Saxon festival and be one of the first in the country, and what that could do for tourism in the town and the county is quite substantial.
They could do... I've got some slogans for them they could use, Alan. They could have a 2-for-1 offer, or they could have a special offer.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I'm sure we could work on that and build on that, yeah.
If you were involved in this, Alan, with the Ringworm Society, what would you do? How would you celebrate?
Well, I think we could take a model from some of what the other towns do with medieval festivals and the Viking Festival at York, which Ringworm attend, and we could have some reenactment events, and then the town can host various different events connected, because there's a really rich heritage in Anglo-Saxon poetry and literature. There's a lot of interest in cooking at the moment, and Anglo-Saxon cooking is quite interesting. So there's various bits and pieces that the town could do throughout the week, say if they had a nominated week, to attract people into Bedford and
Alan,
provide some valuable income for the town.
I do have to ask the question, why the name Ringworm?
Ah, well, that's a very old Anglo-Saxon Old English word.
Yeah. What does it mean, ringworm?
Belief that there was a snake that circled the world, and that the snake in Anglo-Saxon is worm, and the ringworm is the snake that circles the world.
So it's not named after that horrible disease you get when you go to foreign countries?
No, but we like to be tongue-in-cheek at the very least.
You do sound like a bunch of characters, Alan, for goodness sake. Finally, the historians of St Albans Abbey have cast doubt over the Bedford connection. They're not particularly convinced about it. I guess there are always going to be opposing viewpoints over historical issues from so long ago, aren't there?
Definitely. But King Offa is very well documented as a king of Mercia, and this area is well known to have been part of Offa's kingdom, and the fact that after his death his wife was an abbess here in Bedford at a monastery, and there's a charter that proves that monastery was established in 796, does help to provide some links between Offa and Bedford.
Alan, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed. That's Alan Hay, who's a member of Ringworm, the Bedfordshire branch of the Vikings Reenactment Society. Well, later on we will speak to Eric Compton, who is convinced that King Offa is buried near the Star Rowing Club. This isn't just some ruse to stop the redevelopment happening in Bedford, is it? That there's been so much controversy about. Oh no, you can't build a multiplex there. There's a king buried there. We should be discussing that more. I do like those historical reenactment societies. I went out and did some filming once with some people who dressed up in old clothes and had sword fights. They might have been Vikings. I don't know. We had some sword fights. It was ridiculous, okay, and everyone was a little bit odd. But it was so much fun. You can see why people would give up their Sunday afternoons to wear sacks and hit each other with sticks. Honestly, once you do it, you go, oh yeah, actually, I can there is something quite exciting about bald men with long beards going, ah! It's the travel news with Adam.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much. The M1 going southbound, we still have reports of queues because of a multi-vehicle accident. Apparently one lane is blocked off between junction 11 at Dunstable and junction 10 for Luton Airport. Again, if anyone's in the area and can see what's going on, a call would be most helpful. 08459 455 555. The M25.
Don't get us to do your job. Don't get my listeners to do your job. You go and research it, Adam. No, it's yours.
Job, Ian.
Okay, well, maybe it is. I do apologise for
Exactly.
interrupting. Sorry, carry on. Continue.
Right. Anti-clockwise M25, it's looking heavy from junction 25 at Enfield to 24 at Potters Bar through the roadworks. Then again, queues from the M1 to Chorleywood and the M40 to the M4. Though on all of those routes away from London, it's looking okay. And going into London, certainly the M40 and the M4 are looking fine. A1 round Boreham Wood's quite busy, though, between Stirling Corner and Apex Corner. And trains are looking fine. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, I apologise for that outburst. That was inappropriate.
All right.
Thank you very much. Adam will speak to you later on. Here's the news now with Serena.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Police apologise to Bedfordshire woman. Scammers who get your bank details are in action in Luton, and Luton get to stay in the conference.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
A Biggleswade woman who protested because she wasn't allowed to see her medical notes has been handcuffed by police. 67-year-old Mary Kerswell went to the town's health centre to check for corrections after a mix-up with another patient's details. But she wasn't allowed to see the full record, so she staged a sit-in protest. Bedfordshire police have since admitted it could have acted in a less intrusive manner rather than handcuffing her. In other news, a Luton woman's warning people about a telephone scam which involves people handing over their bank details. Sylvia Edwards says the scammers asked her to dial 999 to check the call was genuine in order to gain her trust, but she wasn't aware they'd keep the phone line open, so she was actually speaking to the fraudsters and not the police.
Having dialed 999, yes, one would think if you've dialed 999, you're actually speaking to somebody that's authentic and genuine and bona fide.
Well, you can hear more from Sylvia as she'll be speaking to Iain Lee here on BBC Three Counties Radio in the next half an hour. Supermarket chain Sainsbury has been accused of holding on to retail space in Milton Keynes Centre. It still has an empty building it vacated 4 years ago. It's feared the store's former shop, the food centre, is seen as unattractive by retailers. Well, these shoppers say something needs to be done.
Complete waste of resource. There's other shops that have been trying to get into the city centre for years and they've kept them out, like Primark. And they've got this big building empty. It's also keeping out competition, which is probably the point of it.
I find it with the buses, it's more awkward to get to the new one than it was to get to this one.
Sainsbury has told us it's been investigating a number of options for the future use of the unit, but there are still issues which need to be sorted first. So major changes to the disability benefit system start to take effect from today. The disability living allowance is being gradually replaced with the new personal independence payment. Ministers say claimants should get a more regular assessment. Conservative Party Chairman and MP for Welwyn Hatfield, Grant Shapps, explains more.
Conditions change over time for people, but 70+% of people who've been on that allowance have never actually had any kind of systematic checks. So the upshot of this is that actually hundreds of millions of pounds of overpayments are going out, but also of underpayments.
Scientists in America have put forward a new theory to explain why eating too much red meat may be bad for the heart. They say a compound found in meat can actually damage blood vessels. In sport then, Luton will remain in the conference next season. It comes after a loss to Gateshead, but it puts them mathematically out of reach of the playoffs. And the chance of a few isolated showers across Beds, Herts and Bucks this morning, but mainly dry. Temperatures reaching 8 degrees Celsius, 46 in Fahrenheit. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio, first for news.
Serena.
Yeah.
Little question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Little bit late into work this morning.
Yeah.
May I ask why?
My battery died on me. But it's a long
Sorry?
yeah, exactly. It's not a very nice story, actually, because where I was staying with had to wake up children and all sorts, and it was just, yeah. But anyway, it's fine because I'm here now.
You had to wake up children and your battery died. I'm not going to ask any more, but it sounds fascinating. I'm glad you're here, Serena.
Thanks.
Speak to you later.
Bye.
I didn't understand that excuse, did you? Her battery died and she had to wake up children? Guess the phrase, "it's not a very nice story," always rings alarm bells in my ears, and I thought, Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. What a lovely morning it is as well. Wasn't the sunshine nice this weekend? I had a whole 3 hours of playing with my eldest, playing pirates in the garden. We spent 3 hours talking like that. Every time I stopped, he'd get, "No, Pirate Daddy, don't stop talking like a pirate." I had to keep it up for 3 hours. I'm surprised I have any voice left. Lots coming up on the show this morning, including Bedfordshire police have apologised after a woman was handcuffed for demanding to see her medical notes. Well, our reporter Lorna Hankin has been following the story. She'll be joining me next. A Luton woman has come to this programme to warn you about a new type of scam. She doesn't want other people to fall victim to the same trick. We'll reveal what happened in the next half hour. In the meantime, I'd like to hear from you. What scams can you warn us about? And is Bedford missing a trick over its connections with the Saxon King Offa, it's claimed he was laid to rest in a chapel on the River Ouse? One local resident thinks that Bedford is missing out. Justin Dealey is on his way to meet him. Lots of ways to get in touch. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can tweet me as well. Don't be argumentative like Rebecca was. At BBC3CR or at Iain Lee. But the best way to get in touch, of course, as we all know, is the telephone. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
A 67-year-old woman who was handcuffed for demanding to see her medical notes has received an apology from Bedfordshire Police. Mary Kurzweil went to Biggleswade Health Centre to check for corrections following a mix-up with another patient's details. Well, our reporter Lorna Hankin has been following this story. Joins me now. Good morning, Lorna. There was a big mix-up with her notes. What happened?
Well, Mrs. Kurzweil said that she was telephoned by Biggleswade Health Centre in October saying her kidney condition demanded an urgent urine test. Now, she told them, hang on a minute, I'm perfectly healthy, but the surgery was adamant that her records showed she was a heavy smoker, suffered from Alzheimer's disease, had a kidney condition and had undergone a hysterectomy and a double hip replacement.
You would know if you'd undergone these procedures, wouldn't you?
I think you would, really, yeah.
What happened then?
Well, she went to the surgery and asked for her full 43-page long medical notes, but after allegedly being told the manager was unavailable and she'd have to wait, she refused to leave. Now, police community support officer then came into the surgery and asked her to leave, but she said she'd already paid £10 to access the information a few days beforehand. She was then handcuffed and escorted out of the building. She was unable to see her full medical records and staged a sit-in protest. Police were called and she was escorted out in handcuffs.
Well, this happened, I think, in December. What did the police say at the time?
Well, they said at the time that officers attended the practice in Saffron Road over reports of a breach of the peace and that handcuffing was standard practice. But they've now apologised over the handling of the case. Chief Inspector Mark Upex said, "I have spoken with Mrs. Kurzweil Carswell on 2 occasions, and while she does not wish to make a formal complaint, she did raise some concerns about the actions taken by the officers. I've agreed with Mrs Carswell that officers could have acted in a less intrusive manner and have apologised to her for this. The officers involved have been spoken to and advised about their future conduct. Mrs Carswell was satisfied with this outcome.
And what has Mary Carswell said about this?
Well, she's since registered with another practice and told BBC News Online, "I think they've been very honest about it and apologetic, and more to the point, bringing it to the attention of the staff concerned, so they know in future just how to react in a similar situation."
And the health centre, have they given a response?
No, the Biggleswade Health Centre was unavailable for comment when approached by the BBC News
Lorna
Online.
Hankin, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. I guess that so many questions raised from this. Ever been handcuffed? By the police, you mucky lot, for goodness sakes. I don't want to know what you get up to in your kitchens and wherever. Ever been handcuffed? 08459 455 555. And also, I'm tempted to go and ask for my medical records now, because doctors, they I don't think they do it now, but because years ago you couldn't get your medical records, you weren't allowed to see them, they were private, now you can. And so doctors would write things about patients. I need a doctor to call in, because there was an acronym they used to put if a patient was trouble, and I can't think what it was. It was like something like, I can't think, but it meant this patient is a nuisance, beware. And I can't think what it was. If you're a doctor, there was a little code you'd write so that other doctors would know it was a troublesome patient. 08459 455 555. Ever looked at your medical records and seen what the doctors have really said about you? I think they're a little bit more cautious these days, but going back a few years, they would write anything they wanted about you. 08459 455 555. We're also talking about scams this morning after one lady was, it was a terrible scam. We'll go into a bit more detail, but it ended up with some gentlemen turning up in a car at her house, claiming to be from the bank, taking her bank statements, her bank cards, her checkbooks, everything. 08459 455 555. Trevor's from Radlett. Good morning, Trevor.
Morning, Ian.
What scam can you warn us about?
There is another similar one kicking about where they pretend they're from BT, and no matter what provider you're from, they say, well, as you know, everyone rents their lines from BT, and there's a £15 bill needs paying, we're going to cut you off.
Oh.
And they do the same thing. They block the line, ask you to try to make a call, and then they answer it back and say, see, we've cut your line off, so you need to pay this over the phone now. And it's a very similar scam that they're doing at the moment.
It's odd, isn't it? But that £15 doesn't sound a lot, but I guess that's the trick, is that you think, it's all 15 quid. Well, yeah, actually, I can pay that now. Let me give you the details.
Exactly, yeah.
It's very naughty. Trevor, do you think you'd ever be suckered in by any of these scams, or are you too savvy?
No, I mean, they can phone the mobile all they like, but, I mean, if anyone rang me up and said, make a call and check or whatever, I said, that's okay, I'll do it on my mobile. Stay on the line. I'll do it while you're on the line.
Clever. Trevor, listen, thank you very much for that. 08459 455 555. Any scams you can tell us about? It's the perennial, it's the phone-in show perennial topic, scams. And just when you think, we don't need to do this again, then something new comes up, and a new clever little trick. And you do think, they'll never get me. And I like to think I'd never be scammed like this. But then I guess they're not going for me. Late 30s, steady, the fairly intelligent, media-savvy bloke. They're not going for me, are they? They're going for older people, aren't they? They're going for people like my mum, who's a little bit too trusting, perhaps. 08459 455 555. Should we have a look at the front pages of the newspaper? Victorious Grand National jockey is flown to hospital. This is Ryan Mania, I think he pronounces his name, who won the Grand National. His first attempt on Saturday was in hospital last night after falling at a race meeting in Hexham. MPs call for top bankers' pension to be cut back. Fury over former H-Boss chief's £20 million pot. Wowzers. £20 million pension. Let's have a little look. The Guardian. Hospitals must shrink or shut, doctors warn. GP's leader says half of services should be moved closer to patients' homes. GPs, who now control much of the NHS budget, have said many hospitals will have to drastically shrink or shut altogether because half their services could be provided elsewhere. And there's that jockey again. Did you watch the Grand National? I didn't. I have no interest in the Grand. I think the Grand National was horrible. Horrible race. And shame on all you lot for taking part in the sweepstake at work. Shame on you. Disgusting. The Independent. There's that girl with the there's that naughty girl, Paris Brown, who's now fast becoming my hero. Paris Brown, Britain's first youth police and crime commissioner outside Maidstone Police Station. So she's 17 years old. She's been hired at £15,000 a year as the first youth police and crime commissioner. And she's been tweeting a load of horrible stuff. Slightly homophobic, slightly racist, low-level homophobia and racism. Quite obnoxious stuff, OK? But no different from any other teenager's kind of Twitter feed, and she's got in trouble. The Mail are after her. She'll be out of a job by the end of the week. She won't last a week. Okay. Part of me thinks, well, she's the perfect person to be a youth police and crime commissioner. She often speaks their language. The thing I find most offensive, and you shouldn't really, it's the eyebrows. She's got what I've heard are described as HD eyebrows. You know, the rectangles. And you shouldn't really, but I do feel sorry for her. But young people, you've got to realise that, you know, if you can't tweet and you can't find... You can't tweet and you can't Facebook stuff anymore because it will come up against you. Just if you're going to get a job in the public office. We'll go through the rest of the papers a little bit later on. But Justin Dealey is on the hunt. He's on the hunt. What are you on the hunt for, Dealey?
I am on the hunt for King Offa.
King Offa?
Yes, King Offa. We're looking for him in Bedford this morning. We're going to be talking live later on to a man who is convinced that he was buried on the banks of the River Ouse in Bedford, that man being Eric Compton. He's fairly handy, I believe, looking for things in Bedford. Now, Ian, the big question is...
He's fairly handy?
Apparently so. He's got a metal detector and he finds all sorts of things. I'm suspicious about this story, but you mentioned earlier on you never heard of King Offa.
No, I don't.
I've asked the man a moment ago, very, very briefly. Let's take a listen to this. Ron, we're here in Bedford this morning. We are looking for the remains of King Offa. How excited are you about that?
7 a.m. in the morning, not very.
Do you know who he is?
King Arthur?
King Offa.
King Offa? Oh, I thought he said Arthur.
No, King Offa.
He was King of the Danes, wasn't he?
I mean, if we found him, would that make you feel happy?
Not as happy it would make him.
You don't really care, do you?
Not really, sorry. Not this early.
There you go. Never heard of him.
Wow.
Never heard of him.
Wow. You've really sold that story, Justin. Can I be honest? What he said then was what I heard in my head when this was mentioned last week. But there are people that are excited, and it could be good news for Bedford, couldn't it?
So we're told for tourism. Of course, some people doubt these claims that he could be buried here in Bedford. Eric Compton is the man, hopefully, with a few answers. We're going to be talking to him live from the River Ouse after 7:30. He's very, very excited. Brilliant. But I'm suspicious because we talk about the Bedford Riverside development. That's exactly where these remains are apparently buried. Now, if that was to be true,
I knew it.
Would that stop the development? That's the big question.
I knew it. I knew there was a connection. Have you got your shovel with you, Justin?
Yes, I have. I've got a shovel, and Eric will have his metal detector. We are going looking for Saxon King Offa.
Thank you very much, Justin Daly, BBC Three Counties Radio, the first for news. 7:15, here's the travel now. Adam Glynn.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And it's still looking pretty slow on the M1 southbound between junction 13 at Bedford and 11 for the A505 at Dunstable. We had those earlier reports of an accident passing junction 11. We did have a call come in from Peter, so thank you very much for that. As far as we know, it does look like it may have cleared, but expect it to still be quite busy. M25 anti-clockwise, 2 lanes are blocked by a car fire. That's at junction 16 for the M40. The car is on the hard shoulder and is currently ablaze. The authorities are blocking lanes 1 and 2 for safety reasons, and they're currently waiting for the fire brigade. So lane 3 is open past there. Traffic just about squeezing past, but it's adding to the delays. Thanks to Alan, who called us about that one. And further around the M25, it's slow from junction 25 at Enfield to 24 at Potters Bar through the roadworks. And if you're heading for London through Boreham Wood, the A1 is queuing southbound between Stirling Corner and Apex Corner. Trains still looking fine. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thanks very much indeed. Morning, 7:16. This is Iain Lee. These are your headlines on Monday, the 8th of April. Police have apologised for handcuffing a Biggleswade woman when all she wanted was to see her medical notes. There's a warning about a telephone scam operating in Luton, which fools people into handing over their bank details. And Luton, in sport, Luton are mathematically out of reach of the playoffs, and so will stay in the conference next season. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks, the chances of a few isolated showers, but most places will stay dry. Some bright intervals are also likely. Maximum temperature is 8 degrees. Coming up, Sainsbury's has been accused of strangling prime retail space in the centre of Milton Keynes by holding on to a building it vacated 4 years ago. We'll hear more before 7:30. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Every weekday from 3, Roberto Perrone with the best local news stories.
I get to meet a lot of really interesting people with the most amazing stories.
We feel as if we haven't been taken notice of.
Yesterday we heard that the bank had gone, but today it's still there.
The cat got delivered up in Kabul. You should be back in the UK in 2 months.
With the best local talking points.
Do some of the bakers have flapjack fights?
No, of course not, Roberto. Well, not in our shops.
Roberto Perrone, weekdays from 3.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
Very excitingly, I was asking if you'd ever looked at your doctor's notes, because they used to, they're not so hot on it now, but they used to write little acronyms for the people who are trouble. Well, someone has very kindly sent me medical abbreviations. ABITHAD. Another blithering idiot thinks he's a doctor. ATSWWT always thinks there's something wrong with them. This is not real. If you're a doctor, listen to this. Have you ever written this on someone's notes? FFFF. What do you think that means? I'll put this out there. FFFF. If a doctor writes that down on your notes, what do you think that means? FF. I'll give you the answer a little bit later on. It's very naughty. I can believe this of doctors, because they are naughty people. FFFF. Now, Sainsbury's has been accused of strangling prime retail space in the centre of Milton Keynes by holding onto a building it vacated 4 years ago. Residents and councils have expressed concern that the store's former shop in the food centre has been left empty since the new store in town opened in 2008. Well, with Waitrose now vacating the centre, it's feared the food centre is seen as unattractive by retailers. Paul Scoynes is outside the empty store. Good morning, Paul.
Hello, good morning, Ian.
Paul, give us a little bit of the background on this, please.
Yes, I'm outside a very empty and lonely and sad-looking store here. This was the food centre, opened in the late 80s in Milton Keynes, gleaming white building with sort of Romanesque columns outside it. And it was owned then by the Development Corporation, who then sold it eventually on to, well, it was the council then that sold it on to the owners of the centre, MK, the shopping centre. And there are two big shops in there with a Waitrose and a Sainsbury's, and there were some specialist shops as well alongside it. But Sainsbury's left this building to move just about 15 minutes walk down the road to a purpose-built shop and sort of residential complex, and has left this building in a fairly empty state since. I say fairly empty. There's a cigarette counter, and that's about it inside. So it looks very, very, very sad, really. So, yeah, that's the sort of size of it.
Paul, what does the food centre look like now, and what do you think it will look like when Waitrose goes?
Well, I mean, on this side, certainly, it looks pretty beat up. I mean, the sort of Sainsbury's orange is still alongside this side of the building. There's still the sign saying we've moved just down the road. But if I look at the actual sort of building itself, I mean, the windows look all sort of tired and covered in sort of whitewash. There's a few of them which have been put in and have got wooden boards up. The outside of the building looks fairly tatty, and as I say, the inside is empty. And when Waitrose goes later this year, in only a couple of months' time, it's going to be completely empty, or no, more or less 80% empty. There's still Iceland down the road, but you wonder, how attractive this is as a building to retailers. And what we understand is that there have been moves to try and get other people in. Waitrose even allegedly were sort of looking to expand into this area, but were unable to do so. This lease that Sainsbury's have on it has, we understand, at least 10 years still left on it. They are paying a service charge. They are paying rates. We don't really know the extent of what the rent is. There have been figures you've mentioned.
The figure of £1 million a year has been put forward.
Yeah, I've been told by several sources that is way out, and certainly doesn't even come close to that.
It could be more than that, you're saying?
I think it's significantly less than that.
Less than that.
So,
OK, less.
yeah,
thank you.
That's my understanding from various sources I've
Paul,
spoken.
you've been speaking to shoppers this morning, haven't you?
Well, that's right. Over the weekend, I came back here, and I sort of was talking to some people about it, and I thought, well, these are people who use this building, and these two ladies spoke to me yesterday.
It's a complete waste of resource. There's other shops that have been trying to get into the city centre for years, and they've kept them out, like Primark. And they've got this big building empty. It's also keeping out competition, which is probably the point of it.
I find it with the buses, it's more awkward to get to the new one than it was to get to this one.
With Waitrose going now, that's another shop out of this building, and this was a landmark food centre when it opened in the 80s. What do you think about this whole building being empty?
Yeah, it's disgusting. Where are we supposed to go for food shopping? Unless we've got transport to go to the other one.
Because you do have to have a car now, really, don't you? You can't be in town and do your weekly shop.
Personally, I shop out of town because I drive, but my mum's an old age pensioner and relies on the free bus pass, and it's a lot easier for her to get into the city than to go all the way in the opposite direction out of her area to the new ones that they've built, because this is nearer to where she lives.
What would you like to see happen to this building eventually?
Well, a new supermarket. Whether it be Sainsbury's, Asda, Tesco's, anybody, as long as it's a supermarket. Because without Waitrose, we've got nothing.
Paul Scoins, thank you very much. We can speak now to Dr Rebecca Kurth, who is the chair of the Central Milton Keynes Town Council. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Ian.
You must be concerned about this area being empty.
Very concerned, and I've heard from a lot of residents as well. Yeah, the city centre is in danger of hollowing out at the rate we're going.
What do you think Sainsbury's should do? They've got a very long lease on this property. They're paying all of their rates and their rents and everything they should do. So they're doing nothing legally wrong. But what would you like to see Sainsbury's do?
I'd like to see Sainsbury's negotiate, a deal with the owners of the shopping building so that we can have a new supermarket in there.
Why do you think they're doing this? Is it purely for selfish things so that no competition sets up shop there?
Oh, I mean, I really would hate to speculate. We have to realise that they do own the leasehold for that part of the building, so, they are expecting to sell it to, I presume, the freeholder, and it's I don't really know the ins and outs, but I would imagine it's a complex financial matter.
The old complex financial matter rears its ugly head again. What do you think about the future of shopping in central Milton Keynes? There aren't very many food stores now, are there?
No, and in fact, people don't realise that there are thousands of residents that live in the city centre, and like all the residential areas around that have local centres, well, the city centre is our local shops. And we need supermarkets. We need to be able to walk there and do our weekly shops, just like, the other residents in their residential grid squares can do the same thing.
Is there anything the council can do, Rebecca, or is it out of your hands?
Well, it's certainly out of the town council's hands, Central Milton Keynes Town Council. We can obviously write letters and encourage residents to do so, but it's really down to the main borough council to bring the owners together and find a resolution to this.
Dr Rebecca Kurth, thank you very much indeed, from Central Milton Keynes Town Council. Well, as a Sainsbury's spokesman has said, we've been investigating a number of options with our landlords for the future use of our former store unit in the food centre. Unfortunately, despite a number of interested parties, there remains issues to be resolved. Now Waitrose is vacating the adjacent unit. We believe this presents new opportunities to explore with our landlords. We hope to make the most of this opportunity, and with this in mind, we've recently appointed additional consultants to review the unit with the intention of securing the delivery of this strategy. A lot of words there, but I don't actually hear anything.
This is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Let's have a quick look at the rest of the newspapers, shall we? We've got them all over here. Look, I was picking up the ones we've looked at already. The Daily Telegraph. Labour split puts Miliband on back foot over benefits. Senior MPs admit their party has shortcomings on welfare policy and urge sweeping changes. There's that jockey who won a race then fell off a horse. Royal Mail sale could see £1 first-class stamp. Oh, blimey. The price of a first-class stamp could rise to nearly £1 within 3 years if Royal Mail is privatised, campaigners say. Does anyone post letters anymore? I posted a letter at the week. I do it so rarely. I do it occasionally when I have to. I had to send some car insurance documents off. Put a stamp on. £1 first class. I don't think that's too bad, to be honest. I don't think it's that producer Laura's getting upset. You pulled that angry face there.
I pulled my really grumpy face.
Well, what's a pound for first class? We don't really use letters anymore. No one writes letters or sends stuff unless they have to. I wouldn't mind paying £1 first class.
Birthday cards, though. Most people still send birthday cards. Of course, it's one thing putting the price of a letter up, but what then about the parcels?
Yes.
You can't do anything about that. If the prices go up for letters, then they'll go up for parcels, and then it costs a fortune.
You are... Look at you. I can tell you work for the BBC. You're a scaremonger. There's nothing in this about parcels being more expensive, certainly not in the first paragraph, as that's all I've read. Letters will go up because letters are loss-making because it costs so much. What's a first-class stamp these days? 60 pence? Something like that. So, and for that, you post it in a box, it could be delivered to Scotland. That's not. Doesn't make any financial sense whatsoever. There's no incentive for Royal Mail to do it.
I'm not so sure everybody would agree with you on that one.
08459 455 555 is the phone number. I think a quid to send a letter, right, from, let's say, from Milton Keynes to Scotland, a quid. That sounds great value to me. Great value. And no one sends letters anymore. We do it so infrequently now. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. You'll be honestly, 60 pence. Is that what a first-class stamp is these days? Does it say in the story? Last year, the price of sending a first-class letter rose by 30% from 46p to 60 pence. There we go. 60 pence to get a letter from Bedford to Glasgow. That's a bargain by anyone's standards. A quid makes more sense, doesn't it? And really, anybody posting letters? But no. 08459 455 555. Travel news now. Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M1 still looking slow southbound from junction 13 at Bedford to 11 at Dunstable, though not as slow as it was even 15 minutes ago. Of course, we did have the reports of the accident around junction 11 earlier. Anti-clockwise M25 still queuing. It's one lane closed now because of the car fire earlier, which is out at junction 16 for the M40. It is slow back to 17 at Maple Cross. The car's on the hard shoulder, the fire completely out, but lane 1 remains closed past it. And clockwise, the other side going past there is looking quite slow, presumably as people were queuing and having a little bit of a look. Anti-clockwise is busy from the M1 to Watford, junction 21 to 19. The A1 is looking slow now at the Black Cat roundabout, the junction with the A42 on the Great Barford bypass. And then as you get into London, busy again through Edgware with queues on the cameras between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. Trains, meanwhile, still looking good. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, you're looking good as well.
Oh, you're very kind.
You're welcome. Let's get the latest news and sport now. Serena Farrow.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. A Biggleswade woman who protested because she wasn't allowed to see her medical notes has been handcuffed by police. There's a warning about a telephone scam operating in Luton which fools people into handing over their bank details. Elsewhere, supermarket chain Sainsbury has been accused of holding on to retail space in Milton Keynes Centre. It still has an empty building despite leaving it 4 years ago. And the local man Eric Compton feels the tourism department in Bedford should be making more of its links with the Anglo-Saxon period and with King Offa. We'll be hearing more on this and how it can be done in just a moment here on BBC Three Counties Radio with Iain Lee, as he'll be talking to him then. That's the latest. Now let's get all the morning sport.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
After Saturday's goalless draw at home to Championship leaders Cardiff, Hornets boss Gianfranco Zola says his side is in a comfortable position ahead of their next match on the road to Peterborough.
You can't afford to make any mistakes because we might take advantage of that. So that's what I'm looking. No pressure with us because we are happy and very pleased with the position we are playing. We are playing right now. We've done everything we could and we carry on until the end, and the pressure is not certainly on us.
In League One, hopes for making the playoffs remain slim after MK Dons were unable to get a win. They had a goalless draw against visitors Crawley. Staying with that league, and Stevenage remain unbeaten under the returning manager after a draw against Portsmouth. It did give Borough, though, a second consecutive clean sheet, and Graham Wesley's happy with what he's seen so far.
I've been really pleased with their response and their reaction, and particularly pleased with the attitude that they're showing. They're really applying themselves, and there's some very good players at the club.
Luton, meanwhile, will stay in the conference next season. It comes after a loss to Gateshead, which puts them mathematically out of reach of the playoffs. The 5-1 loss away to Gateshead sealed the fate. However, assistant manager Terry Harris says the remaining games are still important.
These games now have been all about really us having the opportunity to look at the players we have, looking at players that are elsewhere that could come in and be beneficial for Luton Town Football Club. Certainly for us to look at players and also for players to put a case forward for them.
Turning to rugby, and Saracens are through to their second Heineken Cup semi-final. It comes after beating Ulster 27 points to 16 last night. BBC Three Counties Radio, more from me at 8.
Call 08459 455 555.
08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Little brain freeze there for a second. My finger was hovering over the button and I didn't know what to do. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. A Luton woman wants to warn you about a telephone scam where people are fooled into handing over bank details. Sylvia Edwards says the scammers asked her to dial 999 to check the call was genuine. She'll be on the show shortly. And King Offa, heard of him? Offa. No. Well, up until Friday, I hadn't either. He was a Saxon king, and it was claimed he was laid to rest in a chapel in the River Ouse, which later flooded. Well, one local historian is well excited about this news, and so is Justin Dealey. He's on his way with a shovel to find him. Find either of them would be great. 08459 455 555. And after a woman was handcuffed for asking to... just to look at her medical records. We're asking, have you ever looked at your medical records? And if you're a doctor, be honest, because you write these abbreviations on these notes, and some of them are very naughty. One of them, FFFF. Peter in Walmer Green. Peter, any idea if a doctor were to write FFFF on a patient's notes, any idea what that might mean?
No idea whatsoever.
No, they wouldn't write it about you, I can assure you. Now, Peter, you've called in about the price of stamps.
Well,
it's a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a bad idea, really.
The price of stamps going up makes perfect sense.
No, not at all.
Why?
Well, because it breaks down the social fabric in a certain sense. I write a lot of letters, and I get some quite interesting replies back from all sorts of people. Former Archbishop of Canterbury, the new Archbishop of Canterbury.
Hang on, sorry.
Prince of Wales, all sorts of people. It gives you an insight into their character.
Hang on a minute. The Archbishop of Canterbury and the Prince of Wales have sent you letters?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What did the letter from Prince Charles say?
I don't really want to discuss that, but
did it say, stop writing to me, I'm going to call the police?
No, because they give you a bit of an insight into their character that you don't see. So a personal letter is greatly different to an email, whatever.
But the thing is, the Prince of Wales, if the postage went up to £1, first class, the Prince of Wales could still afford that, Peter. He'd still write to you.
Yeah, he wouldn't get anywhere near the amount of letters, and then part of the social fabric disappears as well.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
But the thing is, to send a letter from Walmer Green to, let's say, Dublin...
Yep.
Or Belfast, will cost you 60p at the moment.
Yep.
That doesn't make any financial sense.
Oh, God, does it? When you've got a bag full of several thousand...
Well, yeah, but still 60 pence to travel how many hundreds of miles over the water? That's ridiculous. A quid is much more reasonable.
It's only a bag. It's less weight than you.
Why don't you... Have you got emails, Peter?
No, I don't use it.
Oh, dearie me.
No, that's absolutely fine by me.
Letters are from the olden days. They're from, like, the 19th century or something. They're dying out, Peter. We don't need them anymore.
Yeah, but you've got people sitting at computers with no other life.
Well... You've cut me to the soul there, Peter.
Well, that's probably
I
true.
felt that.
Perhaps you sit in the evening and sit on your computer.
Well, no, isn't it funny you should say that? Because, do you know what? I'm kind of downgrading a little bit. This week, I'm going to get rid of... I've got one of these fancy iPhones, right, Peter? And I'm going to get rid of it. And I'm going to get a phone, a Nokia 3410. All it does phone calls, it does texts. And that's it. And I'm going to see if I can survive with that for a little while. Well, so in some ways, I'm kind of agreeing with you. We do use computers too much.
Goodness gracious me, some people got really sad lives in.
Haven't they, Peter? Haven't they? Haven't they getting letters? Go on, what did Prince Charles say to you in his letter? Go on.
No. I just... when I get a letter from anyone, as far as I'm concerned, that's personal.
Peter in Walmer Green, thank you very much indeed. A letter from Prince Charles. Exciting. 08459 455 555. You've got to admit, first class stamp now, 60 pence. Right. A letter from Walmer Green to Land's End, 60 pence. That can't make sense for Royal Mail. Putting them up, it's only 40 pence. Putting them up first class £1 makes wonderful sense. 08459 455 555. This story is incredible. When you dial 999 because you believe you've been the victim of credit card fraud, you think you're safe. But what happens when criminals have fooled you into thinking that you've dialed 999? Well, actually, you haven't. You're dialing the criminals. Well, this happened to one woman from Luton, Sylvia Edwards, who joins me now. Good morning, Sylvia.
Good morning, Ian.
Now, Sylvia, this happened last week, didn't it, this scam?
Thursday afternoon, yes.
Thursday afternoon. Talk me through it. How did it start?
Well, I had a gentleman phoned and said they were from Barclays Fraud Department and my card details had been used to obtain goods at Selfridges and at Argos to the tune of £2,000.
Yeah.
And but they couldn't discuss this with me until I rang the number on the back of my debit card.
So there's a number on the back of everyone's debit and credit cards, which is the kind of fraud line, isn't there?
Yes, there is. And they told me to ring that and ask for a Mr. Dewani.
Okay.
So I duly did, and I can't believe how stupid I was, but I did. And asked to be put through to Mr. Dewani. He came on the phone, and he said, oh yes, we've got 2 people in custody, but we need your help because we've got to act quickly because we can't hold them for very long. And but we need your... But I must know that I'm speaking to Mrs. Edwards, so can we go through the security check with you? So I did, name, date of birth, parents' name and things like that. So hey, presto, they now got all my security details, not only for my cards, but for my bank statements. So... having done that, they said, well, you are convinced now that you are speaking to them, and we would like you to go and draw out £6,000. I said, I can't do that. I was horrified.
Oh, you would be horrified. Blimey.
I can't do that. So I said, oh, yes. He said, oh, we'll give you protection to get you home, but you must go and draw it and then wait further instructions. And if you don't believe us, you dial 999 and speak to a Mr. Ennis Roy. He is at Charing Cross Fraud Squad, and he will speak to you. So I duly did that. I'm what an idiot. I did that.
Well, no, Sylvia, you say you're an idiot, but it all sounds very, very convincing.
Well, this is why I've come on air today. It's taken me a great deal of courage to come on air because I feel so stupid. With hindsight, looking back, I do have a few little grey cells in my brain, and to think that I was taken in like that is absolutely... it's horrendous.
Well, listen, you sound completely sensible. I was thinking you were going to sound a bit, airy-fairy, but you sound very grounded and very down to earth. So you dialed what you thought was the police. You called 999.
Yes, I did.
And what happened then?
Well, I said... they said, which service is? And I said, well, it's not really an emergency, it's what I was instructed to say. I need to speak to the fraud squad at Charing Cross. Have you got an extension? Yes, extension 25. Putting you through. And then I got through this and I said, come on the phone. And he said, Amy Roy here. And I thought, I'm Mrs. Edwards, I've been asked to ring you. Oh, yes, we've been waiting for your call. Also, so polite, so plausible, and
and they did all the voices and everything as well, did they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
And I was getting more and more sucked into this, and more panicked the fact that £2,000 had now gone out of my account. So now what Mr. Dwani told you was absolutely correct. Now you can put the phone down. Rest assured, it's all in safe hands, and Mr. Dwani will phone you, which he duly did in about 5 minutes. And said, now I want you to go to the bank. And I said, all right, put the phone down. But I didn't. I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I just can't possibly go to the bank. In any case, I said, it's 20 to 5. The bank will be closed. So he said, about half an hour, he rings back. Did you get the money? No, I couldn't. All right, then, we'll go around this another way. We do need to help you get your money back, Mrs. Edwards.
Oh, they sound so kind.
Oh, yes.
Don't they just?
It's so lovely. And so, if you put your bank statement, one for each account, you see, the scary thing about all this, they knew so much about me. And this is a scary thing. They knew my address, they knew my name, they knew my telephone number, they knew I'd Barclays bankers and know how many accounts I'd got. And this is, I think, dead scary. So anyway, I did. I put these bank statements and cards into a white envelope, and lo and behold, 15 minutes later, phone rings again. He's outside.
Oh, dear.
And I open the front door. He's at the front door, actually, and the big black car. I should have, with hindsight, got the number.
The registration number, yeah.
I didn't. And, by this time I'm shaking. I'm absolutely petrified. And he didn't say a word. He just looked at me, and I just handed him this white envelope.
With everything in.
With everything
Oh, Sylvia.
in it. But not my PIN number, which they did ask for. And for some reason, I didn't put my PIN number in there.
So he jumps in the car. He's got your cards and your bank details and everything. He drives off. What point did you think, hang on a second, this is all a bit odd?
Because of his behaviour. He wasn't, hello, Mrs. Edwards, blah, blah, blah. He just stood there and looked at me like a zombie. And I just handed him this and shut the door. So I think then I panicked. I did. And I rang my son, and I spoke to my son's partner, and she said, you've been scammed. I didn't know. Then I really went hysterical. And she said, ring the police, don't ring on your mobile and not on the house line. So that I did. And then I managed to get through very quickly. And I must say, people do complain about the banks, but the bank was brilliant.
Oh, in situations like this, they do jump up, don't they? Yes.
Yeah.
But how helpful were the police? What did the police do?
Well, the police, by this time I was crying on the phone and quite hysterical, and she said, ring, you've got to ring Barclays immediately. I said, I haven't got any numbers. They've got everything. And, it took me ages to go and root through to try and find some old bank statement with a number on it. And so she said, she happened to, I know somebody here, actually, that worked for Barclays originally, and she would probably be able to help, and she did. This police lady came back with a number and said, ring this immediately ring it, which I did. So, yes, it was...
So you've lost no money, have you? The bank stepped in time and stopped everything.
Money.
Okay, that's
something. I've not lost any money, but at this point, my bank account is still not 100% safe. Right. It's not just about the cards and stopping the card. It's the fact that they have got my security details and the amount of inconvenience I've had to go to the bank because when I rang the Barclays card people, they said you must go to the bank first thing in the morning because yes, we can block these cards and no money's gone out of your account, but they have access to your account. If they ring up, they will clear security because you've given them all the security details.
Well, it is a pain, but I know from personal experience that the bank will be able to make your account secure and make sure they can't touch anything. So don't worry.
They put a mantle of protection around my account for the fact that I can't get cards. I can't get. I'm having great.
Well, maybe it's a good thing, Sylvia, because maybe you're spending too much. Sylvia,
maybe so.
Sylvia, listen, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's a brave thing to come on, and a lot of people will be listening to this and
what I would like
grateful.
to say to them is the advice that the bank manager gave me. Never give your bank details. No bank will ever ring and ask. And also, I'm just concerned where they got all my details. I'm very careful. Maybe make sure all your personal stuff is shredded.
We'll be speaking to a scam expert later on. I'll ask him. Sylvia, listen, we have to move on. Before I go, can I just ask you one more question?
Yes.
What is your PIN number? You're not going to fall for that, are you?
Neither again will I fall for anything
I
like
thought
that.
it was worth a try. Sylvia Edwards, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. Very brave of her to come on, I think. You can tell it was she's laughing about it, but what a horrible experience. What nasty, nasty people. What scams have you been made aware of recently? 08459 455 555. Here's the travel news now. Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Ian. Looking at the train departure boards first off this morning, and they're still looking pretty good. We've got no issues, no problems and delays. M1 southbound still slow from Bedford to the Toddington services, so it's looking a little bit better than it was, but busy nonetheless. Anti-clockwise M25 starting to improve as well, because all lanes have now opened after that car fire at junction 16. Still slow back to 17 at Maple Cross though. Anti-clockwise also busy from the M1 at junction 21 through to 19 at Watford. The M40 starting to look slow toward London between junction 5 at Stokenchurch and 4 at High Wycombe. If you're driving in toward London on the A1, southbound queues in Edgware between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. And in Arkley, Barnet Road, the A411, there has been an accident. It's near the Rowley Green Road. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much. Right, 7:47. It's Monday, the 8th of April. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Police have apologised for handcuffing a Biggleswade woman when all she wanted was to see her medical notes. Supermarket chain Sainsbury's has been accused of holding onto retail space in Milton Keynes Centre, as it still hasn't done anything with its old building, which it vacated 4 years ago. And in sport, Luton are mathematically out of reach of the playoffs, and so will stay in the conference next season. Coming up, King Offa, everyone's favourite king. Sorry, you've never heard of him? Well, he was a Saxon king, and it was claimed he was laid to rest in a chapel on the River Ouse, which later flooded. One local historian is very excited about this news. One local reporter is also very excited about this news. His name is Justin Dealey, and he's on his way to meet him, the historian, before 8 o'clock. But before that, let's get the latest weather. Here's Kate Kinsella.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, it's certainly a bit of a different feel to today than we had over the weekend. Temperatures outside at the moment, for some of us, below freezing. So some pockets of frost out there this morning, but slowly the temperature is rising just a little bit. Rather grey, less sun and more wind. So temperature-wise, it's going to struggle today. And even when the temperatures do start to pick up a little bit, it's going to feel a lot colder than it is due to a raw easterly breeze. Now, there's one or two isolated showers around through today. We've already seen a few out towards High Wycombe and Watford, for example, but they're going to come and go throughout the course of the day. A lot of cloud around and temperatures struggling up to 8 Celsius, 46 degrees in Fahrenheit, but like I said, it's not going to feel like that at all. Now, overnight, we'll still have one or two showers around first thing, but it will dry out, becoming dry. Cloud building up towards the early hours of tomorrow morning and the wind staying with us. So that puts paid to temperatures dipping too low. They're still getting down to 1 or 2 Celsius, but hopefully we shouldn't see too much frost tomorrow morning. Now, for tomorrow, it's a rather cloudy picture, some occasional rain around. We've got this weather system moving towards us, but by the time it gets up to the three counties, it does separate a little bit or break up, so the rain is more occasional, for example. So a little bit wet tomorrow, but that brisk easterly breeze is hanging on, so the temperature only getting up to 7 Celsius, but it will feel cooler than that. That's your forecast.
Thank you very much.
Every weekday morning from 9.
The JVS Show.
With the biggest questions.
Today on the Big Phone In, I'm asking, would you support some dog breeds being removed from this country? Should traffic wardens be more lenient? Would the government be right to drop the minimum price for alcohol?
And the biggest opinions.
I think the tax is completely unfair.
It doesn't matter how old they are or how young they are. They're still your children.
It doesn't matter whether it's male or female or what.
I'm disgusted with the people that
You should have cut them people off.
The JVS Show.
Weekdays from 9
on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. We're talking about medical notes and the abbreviations that doctors write on them. I've been sent a list of some of them. FFFF is one of them. If you can guess what that is, 08459 455 555. If we get time before 8 o'clock, I'll ask Justin, see if he knows. But is Bedford missing a trick over its connections with the Saxon King Offa? It's claimed he was laid to rest in a chapel on the River Ouse, which later flooded. Well, Eric Compton lives in the town. He feels the tourism department in Bedford should be making more of its link with the Anglo-Saxon period and with King Offa. Well, we sent our Anglo-Saxon correspondent, Justin Dealey, Offa to find out about this.
Very clever, Ian.
Sorry, I've made my... Set the scene for us, Justin. Exactly where are you?
I'm on the banks of the River Ouse. It's absolutely beautiful this morning. Now, before this morning's programme, you had never heard of King Offa. How very dare you? You'd never heard of him, had you?
I had no idea who Offa was. No.
No. A lot of people also...
He was off my radar.
Oh, this is getting a bit much now.
I know.
So I'm here in Bedford. I'm on the banks of the River Ouse, and I've been asking people whether they know about King Offa. We'll talk to Eric in just a second, but here's some of those views. And we have a spade. We are looking for King Offa. What would it mean to you if we found his remains today?
I think I'd be quite pleased, but wouldn't hold a party or anything. Yes, doesn't mean...
So before this bizarre conversation, had you ever heard of King Offa before?
No, I hadn't. No.
So you'd be happy, but you wouldn't have a party. Do you think it would boost tourism in Bedford?
If it was marketed in the right way, yes. Yeah, it could help.
You don't convince me, really.
I'm trying my hardest.
Thank you very much indeed. Have a good day. Thank you, Anne. There is actually a man here who has heard of King Offa. Most people here haven't heard of King Offa, but there is a man here who has heard of him. Sir, can you just repeat your name for us again, if you don't mind?
Simon.
Simon, you have heard of King Offa?
I have heard of King Offa.
What do you know about him?
No, not a lot beyond having heard of him.
Okay. So you're here at the rowing club. If your rowing club was dug up to look for King Offa, can you tell me how that would make you feel?
As long as we were given somewhere else to live while we dug it up, that would be fine.
Okay. So you have heard of him, that's one thing. Have you ever heard of King Offa, madam?
No, sorry.
I mean, if we found him today, would you maybe hold a party? Would you be excited?
Don't even know who he is, so no.
You don't care in the slightest about King Offa?
Don't even know who he is.
Apparently he would boost tourism, it'd make you feel proud to live in Bedford, but clearly that's not the case, is it?
No,
I've
sorry.
got a spare spade. Do you want to come and give us a hand?
No, it's all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. There you go, Ian. So people like yourself haven't really heard of him, and they're not willing to come with us with the spades and try and find him. I've got a couple of guests here live at the radio car by the River Ouse. One of those is Eric Compton. Eric, thank you for your time. You're live across Beds, Herts and Bucks. Who was King Offa, very briefly, and why was he so important?
King Offa was the greatest king of Mercia. He ruled nearly 3/4 of England. He met Charlemagne. He fought numerous battles. His wife, Cynthritha, she was the abbess of a monastery in Bedford, which actually stood on prior to St Paul's Church now.
Yeah.
And he's expressed his desire before he died in 797. He wanted to be buried in Bedford.
Eric, what would it mean to you if his remains were found here in Bedford?
Everything. I mean, because already the world is over the discovery of the remains of Richard III at Leicester. And now Bury St Edmunds are looking for the remains of King Edmunds in Bedford. This is what it wants.
OK, your son's here as well, Richard Compton. Richard, again, thanks for your time this morning. The historians at St Albans Abbey, they're doubting this Bedford connection, aren't they? What's your thoughts on that?
Doubting the Bedford connections? Well, the thing is that there's no doubt about it, right? With all the historical facts and evidence that King Offa was buried in Bedford, there's no doubt about it. Matthew Parish, who wrote the Chronicles of St Albans Abbey, basically said that is buried here. There is strong evidence here. It's just a matter of finding it.
Richard, do people really care?
I think basically, right, history has gone downhill in one way or another, okay, but this is one way to invigorate, especially something for his town. There's no doubt about it. You know, I've done enough research now to look into getting maybe like a diving team involved. Let's have some action now. Let's try and put something a bit positive into town. Let's bring back the history mark of Bedford again.
But realistically, a couple of final questions for you. Realistically, how long would it take to find the remains of King Offa? Because we're talking here about a big job, aren't we?
We are talking a very big job, though, but we have to start from somewhere. It's like anything in life, okay? We need to put the investment into it. Let's try it. Let's see what's out there. Let's try and gain the evidence. You know, we have to be positive about it, and I think it's a great start. The overall media impact is quite strong regarding King Offa. So let's just do it.
Okay, and just lastly, this is a point that Iain raised earlier on. A lot of controversy recently about these proposals for the Bedford Riverside development. Of course, just over there to our right-hand side. Is this some sort of ploy to say King Offa is here, we need to dig up the area, so if that goes ahead, that means that the Riverside development will be halted? Am I being a bit cheeky with that question?
I think we just said, Justin, is actually very true in some ways, you know, but we have to try and override this in some ways, and you know, this is a real king we're talking about here, okay, and it's a strong importance. You know, I support my dad. My dad was actually on Three Counties Radio over 10 years about this. Yeah. So let's just move it forward, and let's sort of try and override what Bedford Council have to say and look ahead.
Got to leave it there, gents. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Eric and Richard Compton, they
Justin,
are passionate.
We didn't really get an answer to that last question. Would this halt plans for the development that was being built there?
Well, it quite possibly could, in terms of halting the plans. If, for example, you had firm evidence that King Offa was buried here, around this area, do you honestly think it would halt the plans for those developments here in Bedford?
Yes, definitely, but we are talking about a royal king. You know, there's no about it, okay? I know that it may halt plans for having a cinema in particular, okay, but this is the most strongest historical, you know, if we come across, let's say, King Offa in Bedford, how can you get more stronger than that? I mean, it's a royal king.
It's a yes then, Iain. There
it's
you go.
A royal
it's
king.
A yes.
I didn't realise it was one of those royal kings that we hear so much about. All I'm suggesting, Justin, is that there are, and I'm sure these gentlemen don't consider this in the slightest, but some people might interpret this as a ploy to halt or at least postpone what is being seen as a controversial building development. That's the point I'm at.
Quite possibly. But then again, you heard during the interview that Eric was talking about this 10 years ago. So this is nothing new. He's been talking about it for a long time, and they want something done about it.
Fascinating. I love it when people are passionate about history, Justin. We don't get enough of that, and these two gentlemen obviously are. So thank them very much for coming on. Justin, before I let you go, we've been asking about medical notes.
Oh, here we go.
No. We've got yours here in the studio. No, we haven't. No, but doctors often leave little abbreviations on there, and one of them apparently is FFFF. Any idea if a doctor were to write that? They wouldn't write it on your notes, but if they were to write FFFF, any idea what that might mean?
I have got absolutely no idea whatsoever.
Female, fat, 40 and flatulent.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
is that the case?
Doctors are so rude, aren't they?
Well, do you use that one myself?
I don't know what context you use that in, Justin, but thank you very much indeed. Female, fat, flatulent and 40. How rude. Doesn't describe anyone here. Here's the travel with Adam.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Still got queues on the M25. It's looking busy anti-clockwise after the car fire earlier this morning at junction 16 for the M40. Busy back to junction 18 at Chorleywood, despite the fact that all lanes are open. It's also looking slow past Kings Langley at junction 20, from there round to Watford. If you're using the M40 in toward London, it's slow from Stokenchurch to High Wycombe, junction 5 to 4. The A1 into London round Edgware's looking slow between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. We've also got a little bit of a queue still on the M1. Southbound, we had reports of that accident earlier near junction 11. As far as we know, it's all gone, but it's busy from junction 13 at Bedford to the Toddington services. And then as you get in toward London round Arkley, Barnet Road, the A411, an accident at Rowley Green Road. On the trains, no reported problems. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Adam. Coming up in the next hour, scams and posting letters. More after the news with Serena.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. The headlines. Bedfordshire woman gets apology from police. Luton pensioner duped by sophisticated scam. And concerns over empty shop in Milton Keynes.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Bedfordshire Police has apologised to a Biggleswade woman for handcuffing her. She was at the time protesting because she wasn't allowed to see her medical notes. 67-year-old Mary Kurzweil went to the town's health centre in order to check for corrections after a mix-up with another patient's details. But she wasn't allowed to see her full record, so she then had a sit-in protest. Bedfordshire Police, though, have since admitted it could have acted in a less intrusive manner. And stay listening, as we'll be hearing from Dr Philip Hobson, who'll be speaking to Iain Lee here on BBC Three Counties Radio shortly after this bulletin. In other news, supermarket chain Sainsbury's has been accused of holding on to retail space in Milton Keynes Centre. It still has an empty shop it vacated 4 years ago. It's feared the store's former shop, the food centre, is seen as unattractive by retailers. Well, these shoppers say something needs to be done.
Complete waste of resource. There's other shops that have been trying to get into the city centre for years and they've kept them out, like Primark. And they've got this big building empty. It's also keeping out competition, which is probably the point of it.
I find it with the buses, it's more awkward to get to the new one than it was to get to this one.
Well, Sainsbury's says it's been investigating a number of options for the future use, but there are still issues which need to be sorted first. Milton Keynes Town Council, however, says it's having a detrimental effect on the local economy. Dr Rebecca Kurth is the chair of the council.
The city centre is in danger of hollowing out at the rate we're going. I'd like to see Sainsbury's negotiate, a deal with the owners of the shopping building so that we can have a new supermarket in there.
Now, a Luton woman is warning people about a telephone scam which involves people handing over their bank details. Sylvia Edwards says the scammers asked her to dial 999 to check the call was genuine. However, she ended up speaking to the fraudsters themselves and not the police. But the situation only got worse, as she told Iain Lee earlier this morning.
I put these bank statements and cards into a white envelope, and lo and behold, 15 minutes later, phone rings again. He's outside.
Oh, dear.
By this time I'm shaking. He just looked at me and I just handed him this white envelope.
With everything in?
With everything
Oh, Sylvia.
in it. But not my PIN number, which they did ask for.
Bedford's being urged to make more of its historical links, including the possible burial place of the Saxon King Offa, and it'll also give local tourism a boost, apparently. Well, local man Richard Compton says they need to bring history back to life.
But this is one way to invigorate, especially something for his town, there's no doubt about it. I've done enough research now to look into getting maybe like a diving team involved. Let's have some action now. Let's try and put something a bit positive into town. Let's bring back history, the history mark of Bedford again.
Moving on to football, and Luton will now stay in the conference next season after a loss to Gateshead, which puts them mathematically out of reach of the playoffs now. So there will be a chance of a few isolated showers, but mostly dry today. Temperatures 8 degrees Celsius. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio, first for news.
Morning, dear listener. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Inspired by the little bit of sunshine we had at the weekend. Yes, it was cold, but it was bright and cold. I think things may be turning. They may not, but I'd like to think they are. Coming up between now and 9 o'clock, Bedfordshire Police have apologised after a woman was handcuffed for demanding to see her medical notes. I'll be speaking to a doctor to find out what rights you have to see your own notes. A Luton woman has come onto this show to warn you about a new type of scam. She doesn't want other people to fall victim to the same trick. It involved her calling 999 and scammers then turning up at her front door. You'll hear her story in about half an hour. And we'll also find out why Sainsbury's in Milton Keynes is holding onto a building it vacated 4 years ago. And stamps might go up to £1 for first class. I don't see any problem with that. I mean, no one writes that many letters. And for the service you get, £1 seems perfectly reasonable to me. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can give me a call, 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
A 67-year-old woman who was handcuffed for demanding to see her medical notes has received an apology from Bedfordshire Police. Mary Kurzweil went to Biggleswade Health Centre to check for corrections following a mix-up with another patient's details. But what rights do you have over your own medical records. Dr. Phil Hobson joins me now. Good morning, Dr. Phil Hobson.
Good morning.
Doctor, if I wanted to see my medical records, can I just storm into my local surgery and demand to see them? How does it work?
In effect, you can. The law changed about 15 years ago, and patients had the right to see and read their medical records for the previous 10 years. So if we take that from now, you are quite within your rights to look at your medical records going back about 25 years.
Wow. And why did that law? Because up until 15 years ago, when that law changed, they were private, weren't they? They were the doctor's own possession.
Yeah. The medical records are still the health authority and Department of Health. They are the owners of the records.
Right.
But patients are allowed to see them. There is a small fee if you want to charge it.
Right.
I don't think any doctors would do. It's about £10. The only thing they can't do is they can't take the medical records away from the surgery.
Right.
They've got to read them in the surgery. And a lot of the records are now electronic ones. So what I would normally do is if a patient asked to see his or her medical records, I would give them the old written records so they can look through them. Even past 25 years, they can look longer. And we would give them a printout of the electronic ones that they can look at. Now, they don't have to actually sit with the doctor and go through it with him, though. They've got to read them for themselves. And if they've got any queries then, they can raise those questions.
Why do people ask to see their records? What reasons do they give?
Very rarely, actually. I've only been asked by a patient to see their records on about 6 or 7 occasions in the past 25 years or more. So I think they're more concerned that something has been written in those records that is not true, or they're concerned, if it's a younger patient, someone over the age of 16, if there's anything in those records that they wouldn't want their parents to see. Usually a young girl that's perhaps on contraception, which doesn't matter much these days, or had a termination of pregnancy, and parents don't know.
Could I get something taken off my record if I was unhappy with it?
No.
That stays there, that's permanent?
Yeah.
The reason that Mary Kurzweil, the lady in this story, wanted to check her records is because she believed there'd been a mix-up with another patient. Does that... I know it doesn't happen very often, but can that happen?
It can happen, yeah. It's more likely to happen now where doctors change so readily. In my day, you stayed with the practice for 30 or 40 years, but now doctors are changing all the time, and some only stay 3 or 4 years. So they don't know the patients, so it's quite easy to have someone with a similar name, and you put something on those records, and it's not that patient at all.
Who else gets to see these records? Is it just the doctor and the patient?
The doctor and the patient, strictly speaking, or a solicitor. If there's some claim for anything, a solicitor can, with the patient's permission, ask for a complete copy of the medical records. They don't get the original ones, but we photocopy all the records and send them to the solicitor.
Can I ask you a question? Just go off on a slight tangent. I've moved recently, and I'm trying to join a new doctor's surgery, and obviously you have to take in some proof of where you live. And I took in my driving licence, which has got a photo of me and my address, and the lady behind the counter said, "Oh no, we can't accept that because they're too easy to forge." And I said, "Well, what would you like?" She said, "Oh, we need a bank statement or a bill."
We would never ask that. My practice is Worksop in Nottinghamshire. We would certainly never ask for any ID at all. We would just take the patient's word for it.
Oh, really? And also, I would have thought driving licence one of the hardest things to forge. Are you aware? I've heard legend of these, Doctor, from other doctors, of the acronyms that doctors write in notes that can sometimes be a little bit rude about patients. Are you aware of these, or is this a myth?
No, it isn't a myth at all. But that's changed now.
Right.
Because with patients having access to their records, we don't write those now. A typical one was FAW, meaning F all wrong, when you examined a patient.
Thank you for censoring yourself there, Doctor. I appreciate that.
But I've not tended to write that now for several years.
But would you have written that in the past? You could have described someone as an FAW?
Yes.
You're so naughty. And doctors were aware of these, and it was kind of a common language. Did you have like a module when you were at doctor training school or something where you learnt all these?
Yes, some of our consultants who were our teachers used to use them all the time.
Wow.
So we picked them up. It depends on the medical school, I think.
Yeah. But you've stopped using those now that people have access to their records?
I never use it now.
Excellent stuff. Well, Dr. Phil Hobson, I do appreciate you joining me. I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate you censoring yourself there. FAW. I shan't explain what it means again, but that's a... Oh, that's made me laugh. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Have you ever asked to see your medical records? I'll be honest, I'm kind of tempted to have a look now. I'm sure that my doctor at some point would have written FAW about me. I'm kind of tempted. Yes, super lols at that. Thank you very much. 08459 455 555. We're also talking scams this morning after one lady. It was an incredible scam. We'll talk more about her a little bit later on. I've been asking you what scams have touched your life, and have you ever fallen for them? Well, Margaret's from Milton Keynes. Good morning, Margaret.
Good morning.
What scams have you been made aware of?
Well, I got an email from NatWest trying to persuade me to internet banking, and I'm very much against that. I had a conversation with the NatWest Bank previously already, about a year ago.
Yes.
And the lady tried to put me onto it and show me how to get all my bank statements from the internet and everything like that. But then I had a quick with my computer, so I went in there and said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing it.
Yes.
And 2 days ago I got that email, so I went in, and first of all, as I've changed my email address, I asked them where the heck they got it from.
Yes.
And then not to send me any more of that. And she said, we never send emails as far as internet banking is concerned. We never send any emails. It's all done by letter.
And it looked convincing, did it, Margaret?
It looked very convincing, yes.
You do think, obviously, you were sensible enough to call up the bank, but it does make you think that then... And if I saw an email from my bank, I'd dismiss it instantly.
I went into that email, but I mean... I'm total ignorant about internet in any case and things like that. So I just discarded it afterwards.
Margaret, can I ask you a question? And you don't have to answer this if it's too personal. You have the most wonderful accent. Where is your accent from?
Well, what kind of accent do you think I have?
That's a very good question. I was trying to think. First of all, I thought it was a little bit Greek, but it's not Greek.
No, it's not Greek, no. It's...
Ukrainian?
No.
I don't... Polish?
No.
It's not Italian?
It's Austrian.
Is it Austrian?
Yes.
I would never have guessed that in a million years.
But with a mixture of Scottish.
How? I hadn't picked up the Scottish until you said Scottish, and then that came across. How come there's a mixture of Scottish in there as well? Did you spend some time there?
No, my husband was Scottish.
And so you picked up a bit of accent from him, did you?
Yes.
It sounds marvellous, and it's wonderful to hear such a rich accent this morning. Margaret, thank you so much for coming on.
That's all right.
Margaret from Milton Keynes. Now she said there's Scottish in it. That's all I could hear was the Scottish. When she said that's all right, that was a full-on Scottish accent. I would never have guessed Austrian. Wonderful. Wonderful. 08459 455 555. Quick look at the other three papers that we've not looked at. The Daily Mail. What an insult to Christians. I can't even be bothered to read that story. I'll read a bit. Druids, vegans and green activists should be given special treatment at work according to lunatic advice from the Equalities Watchdog. OK. The Daily Express. Proof statins save your life. New research shows benefit of Wonder Drug. And Amanda Holden is having a fight with Mumsnet. Don't fight Mumsnet, Amanda. You can't win. And The Sun, there's a picture of a lady with huge knockers on a bicycle. And prison exclusive, at last, Philpott is forced to work. Job as jail Mr Mop is first in 10 years. There we go. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Right, travel news now. Adam Glynn.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And it's still the M1 that's looking pretty slow. Southbound from junction 13 at Bedford through to the Toddington services. The M40's busy too, from junction 5 at Stokenchurch to 4 at High Wycombe. And if you're joining the M25, expect a queue anti-clockwise. We've got busy traffic building from junction 20 at Kings Langley round to 19 at Watford, and then from 18 at Chorleywood through to 16 at the M40. That not helped, of course, by the car fire at junction 16 earlier this morning. Everything reopened about 7:30, but traffic hasn't really eased off particularly. Heading in toward London in Edgware, there are queues on the A1 southbound between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus, and an accident in Arkley along the Barnet Road, the A411. That's near the Rowley Green Road junction. Looking at the train departure boards for you this morning, and things are still looking pretty good with no major problems or delays reported. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Adam. Right, it's 8:15. It's Monday, the 8th of April. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Police who handcuffed a 67-year-old woman, all because she wanted to see her medical notes, have apologised. Residents and Milton Keynes Council say an empty store, which Sainsbury previously occupied, is detrimental to the local economy. And Saracens are through to their second Heineken Cup semi-final after beating Ulster last night. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks, the chance of a few isolated showers, but most places will stay dry. Some bright intervals also likely. Maximum temperature is 8 degrees. Coming up before 8:30, we'll find out why Sainsbury's in Milton Keynes is holding on to a building it vacated 4 years ago.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
BBC Introducing.
BBC Introducing is your chance to hear unsigned, undiscovered and under-the-radar music on BBC Three Counties Radio. We showcase the best emerging talent from across Beds, Herts and Bucks with live sessions and exclusive recordings. And this Saturday we're taking BBC Introducing to the Hat Factory in Luton for a free night of live music. Tune in or come down and discover music you never knew existed. BBC Introducing this Saturday night from 8 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Jonathan Vernon Smith taking a fashion tip from Justin Dealey this morning. Yeah, that's right. Look at you.
No,
your buttons down to your navel.
I'll level with you. This shirt has always got this. The way the buttons are placed.
Yes.
I bought this in South America.
It's a gorgeous shirt.
Yes, but the buttons
pale blue, baby blue,
have been placed in a certain way where you either have it done up too high, so you look like a schoolboy, or you have it done too low,
a tiger,
and you show a little bit of man boobage.
Yeah, look at you. It looks good. I didn't realise you were so hairy. Down there.
Oh my God.
No, I didn't realise. I thought you might be a waxer. You don't wax.
You thought I was a wax?
I thought you might be a waxer because you're so well groomed. And as you've pointed, the first thing you came in and pointed out my bedhead, which is fine. You would never have bedhead, and I thought you'd be a waxer. But you know, you've gone for the Dealey, and I've got to be honest, you wear it better than he does. I wish he did some of his buttons up. He disgusts me, Justin did. He really disgusts me. Does he disgust you?
No,
he's
of course he
disgusting.
don't.
Oh, he's a deviant.
Why is he disgusting?
Wandering around with his shirt half done. All right, girl, make me a cup of coffee, girl. Look at me look at my nipples. He's really very...
Did I tell you about the time he and I came out of that bar in Harpenden?
You've never told me this. No, pen's going on the table. I'm listening.
He was wearing one of his low-cut tops.
He does dress funny,
with a jacket.
He won't be listening to us now. He's digging for a dead king.
He was showing so much chest, and we came out of this pub, and this bloke standing there having a cigarette. He turned to Justin. He said, "Is it fancy dress or is that a lady's top?"
And it probably was
Justin was mortified. He was absolutely mortified.
He reminded me of the best insult I've ever had. It was wearing this jacket. I'm wearing a green... Would you describe this as a bomber jacket, kind of? I don't know. It's a green jacket.
It's an anorak.
This is not an anorak.
It's an anorak. Not a bomber. Look at you trying to sound all...
Anyway, I was wearing this green jacket. I may have had... a hat on, I don't know. And I walked past some builders with my wife. My wife is hot. And these builders were doing the thing that builders do when women walk past. It was horrible. It was all sleazy. And one of them nudged one of their mates and went, "Well, look at that." And I turned to them, I said, "Excuse me, fellas, I'm here. This is my wife. A little bit of respect." And I was walking down the street with my wife, and they kind of stayed there, and we kind of had a little bit of argy-bargy, a little bit of shouting as I was walking away. And I was telling them, "Jog on, fellas, a bit of respect." And this guy turned to me and went, "All right, Glenn Miller, shut up." He called me Glenn Miller.
Glenn Miller.
And he must have been, like, in his late 20s. I thought it was a very odd... Do I look like the missing airman and band leader, Glenn Miller? Do I?
No,
I'm going to Google Glenn Miller.
You don't look anything like Glenn Miller.
I'm going to Google Glenn Miller. Let me just...
He wore specs, Glenn Miller.
Was he a spectacle wearer? Let's have a little look.
You weren't singing the Chattanooga Choo Choo as you walked away, were you?
I was blowing on a trombone at the time. There's Glenn Miller. I do look a bit. I've got the same hair. I smoke cigarettes the same way.
Oh dear, oh dear. No,
Glenn
you
Miller.
don't look like Glenn Miller.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I can always come to you for a kindly word.
You look like what's his name, Dingle.
Oh, for goodness sakes. What's on your show this morning? Although I probably won't be listening.
Have you... why not? That's a bit wicked.
Well, I'm not going to listen to someone who thinks I'm a dingle.
Talking about the comments from Boris Johnson. I need to have a cough. Can I have a cough?
Yeah. I don't think anyone heard that.
Sorry, good.
We'll cut that bit out.
I want to talk about Boris Johnson's comments in today's Telegraph.
What's he said?
Written a very interesting article. And I'm going to be asking from 9, is Boris Johnson right to question the British work ethic? There's this interesting column. He details a conversation that he had with a British cafe owner who employs mostly migrant workers, and the woman that he spoke to, she blames the schools in this country for not teaching our youngsters that they'll have to work hard in order to make the money. Apparently children are taught, oh yes, you can earn lots of money, but they're not taught you've got to work really hard for that money. And she said that's why 90% of her workers are from abroad, because they come here with a hard-working ethic.
Yep.
From 9 this morning, I want to hear your views on this. Do you think Boris Johnson is right to question the British work ethic? Is that a fair comment to make? Or do you think it's really unfair? And many British people, particularly young British people, they do have a very good work ethic. They do really want to work as hard as they possibly can from start to finish. Or are they always looking for an opportunity to skive? Is that something rather British?
I think it is.
Whenever British people get the opportunity to clock off work 5-10 minutes early, they can't wait. They're out the door, aren't they?
I had Polish builders do up my house, okay? I got a lot of flack for getting Polish people in. They gave the best quote, and they were wonderful. They turn up at 7 every morning. Some nights they were there at 7:30. But I thought, OK, I'm going to get some British builders in, one to install a window and one company to install a floor. I wish I hadn't bothered. The people that come and laid the floor, they turned up 10:30 in the morning. They left at 3:30. Took them 2 days to do it. And on the second day, I saw them going... and they hadn't put all of the furniture back like they said they would. I went, oi! Oi! And they came and did it. Oh, if we have to. Can you not get... One of them said, can you not get the Polish fellas to do this? I said, no, I can't get the Polish fellas to do this. So my encounters have been disappointing.
Well, from 9 this morning, I want to hear your view. Is Boris Johnson right to question the British work ethic? 08459 455 555. We'll discuss it on the big phone-in.
This is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Excuse me, I've got to play one of these again.
On FM, AM and online. BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sorry, Jonathan made an inappropriate gesture as he left the studio, and it just caught me off guard there. Now, Sainsbury's has been accused of strangling prime retail space in the centre of Milton Keynes by holding on to a building it vacated 4 years ago. Residents and councils have expressed concern that the store's former shop in the food centre has been left empty since the new store in town opened in 2008. With Waitrose now vacating the centre, it's feared the food centre is seen as unattractive by retailers. Well, Conservative councillor David Hopkins is deputy leader of Milton Keynes Council and in charge of enterprise. Morning, David.
Good morning to you.
David, what effect is this having on this part of Milton Keynes?
Well, it is undoubtedly it has having a negative effect on part of Milton Keynes. The food centre was an integral part of the initial design. Since Sainsbury's moved out, it has looked rather sad. There's no denying, and we'd be very keen to work with the owners of the shopping centre to fully integrate that part of the centre into the overall scheme.
Do we know why Sainsbury's are leaving that plot vacant? They're paying the rents and the rates. They're doing nothing illegal, but it seems an odd decision to make. Do we know why they're doing it?
Well, I've not had personal conversations with Sainsbury's, but one would imagine they're doing it because they've opened a new site, a very successful site in a different part of the city, and I presume it's worth their while to keep the other site, their former site, unoccupied to prevent levels of competition.
And what's the council's view on that? That a supermarket giant like Sainsbury's could effectively kill off part of the town just for their own selfish interests.
Well, that's putting it in very emotive terms. I mean, it's a commercial decision between Sainsbury's and the owner of the...
It's an emotive subject. A lot of people are saying it ruins that part of Milton Keynes.
And I would agree with that. And we're working very closely with the shopping centre management organisation, the people who own the centre, to fully integrate the food centre and the leisure plaza, actually, in a scheme which takes full account of the centre moving forward. We want to see great things for Central Milton Keynes, and we published our supplementary planning document for CMK in January of this year, and the local parish council producing its own neighbourhood business plan, working with us very closely as well to see that integration takes place.
So what is your plan for the food centre?
Well, the plan for the food centre is actually a plan for the whole of that part of Milton Keynes. The shopping centre was opened in 1979, as you're aware, and needs now, I think, a degree of refresh. It needs to reinvent itself to become the great competitive part of Milton Keynes that it once was and can be again. So what we're looking to do is to get a plan together which actually integrates that part of Central Milton Keynes with the rest of the shopping centre, with the leisure plaza, to make an offering in 2013, 2014, which is very much in tune with what people want and need today.
So what can people expect to see then? It's very exciting that you've got plans for it, but I'm not hearing specifics, David.
Well, we've now taken over part of the assets of what was formerly the Homes and Communities Agency, so part of that area, not the food centre itself, but part of that area is actually now under our control. So we're very keen to sit down and work with the freeholders of the rest of the centre to actually come together with an integrated plan and to bring Sainsbury's to the table as well, to make it worth their while to vacate their lease and to move forward.
And have you got a date for these?
The irony is, of course, we did actually inherit the food centre from the Milton Keynes Development Corporation, and that a previous administration, a Labour administration, sold the centre in its dash for cash in the 1990s. We'd be in a much stronger position if we still had that control.
David, when are these talks going to take place with all the interested parties? Have you got a date?
No, we haven't got a date. We're very keen to get everybody around the table. As I say, we published our supplementary planning document in January. You'll be aware there was a planning application for the Secklow Gate area, which was turned down only a few weeks ago. We've invited everybody to come and sit around the table with us, and we've had some very positive responses, but we haven't got a date yet.
David, this afternoon or this morning, can you not just phone up Sainsbury's and say, come on, what's going on here? This is unfair. What can we do to sort this out? Give them a phone call.
Well, I'd be delighted to talk to Sainsbury's, and you know, my people and their people have had discussions, as it were. But at the end of the day, it is a commercial decision between Sainsbury's and the owners of the site. We are influencers. We are not dictators to the future of the site. We want to pull together a strategic plan for that part of Milton Keynes, and that's what we're keen to do.
OK, we'll end it there. That's the Conservative councillor David Hopkins, Deputy Leader of Milton Keynes Council. Sounds exciting. They've got plans for that area. Wonderful. Rejuvenation. Inject life into it. I couldn't quite work out what those plans were, though. Was that just me being a little bit stupid this morning? 08459 455 555. After the story that one woman, a 67-year-old woman, was handcuffed when she was refused access to her medical records. I've been asking, ever asked to see your medical records? Lynn's in Hemel. Lynn, you have asked to see your medical records, and you found something rather shocking.
Yes, slightly. I'd been referred to...
They didn't write FAW, did they?
No, they
okay,
didn't.
Good. That's something.
Well, I think they probably did and sort of deleted it before they gave me the copy.
Well, what did they say about you?
I loved that comment. It made me laugh.
He was good, wasn't he, that doctor?
He was brilliant. Like an idiot, I was going referred to a surgeon, and I phoned the doctors and said, can I have a copy of my records to take to the surgeon? Which, on reflection, was stupid, because if he'd have wanted them, he'd have asked for them. But I got a printout from the computer, and according to this printout, I've had 2 heart attacks.
Excuse me?
I've had 2 heart attacks.
How are you feeling after those 2 heart attacks?
I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack.
You nearly had a third one.
I nearly had a third one. And when I went to see my doctor, I said to him, it's the first I've ever heard of it. Although I was in hospital once and had an ECG.
Yeah.
And the doctor said to me, oh, you've had a heart attack. And I thought it was a question. So I said, no. He said, you have. You've got scarring on your heart. And it also said I'd had a couple of epileptic fits.
And you had actually had these heart attacks and these fits?
Yeah.
But no one had told you at the time?
No, I've got scarring on my heart, and it proves that I've had a heart attack.
Now, Lynn, can I ask you a question? And please don't be offended.
I won't.
Are you a little bit dippy? Is there a chance that maybe they told you and you just forgot because there was something good on TV? Deal or No Deal was on.
No,
Is that possible?
Honestly, I promise you.
So you looked. You actually had these heart attacks and epileptic fits.
I've got the thing in front of me, and the doctor did say when I went to the doctor, obviously I was deeply concerned.
You would be.
Because I spent weeks thinking, oh my God, I'm going to drop dead at any second. I mean, I'm 58, so it's not inconceivable. And he said, you can have heart attacks and know nothing about it.
Oh, Lynn, you've made me... Lynn, I've got to end it there, partly because we're running out of time, partly because you've made me feel all uncomfortable. I think everybody in their cars or at home or at work is slightly clutching their chest, just feeling a little bit... Really? Lynn had had 2 heart attacks and epileptic fits and didn't know anything about it until she looked at her medical records? Wow. Ever looked at your medical records? 08459 455 555. And if you're a doctor, come on, give us a call. Be honest. Let me know those sneaky little things, those abbreviations you would write about your patients. We've already worked out what FAW means. Something all wrong. I can't even begin to explain it again. 08459 455 555. Here's Adam Glynn with the travel.
Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The A1 going southbound, looking slow at the Black Cat roundabout. So as you come toward the Great Barford bypass, expect traffic to look quite slow. It's busy southbound on the M1 as well, with traffic still not easing yet this morning between junction 13 at Bedford and 12 at Flitwick. Anti-clockwise M25, it's more solid of a queue than it was. Junction 20 at Kings Langley all the way round to 15 at the M4. Not helped by that car fire, of course, near to junction 16 earlier this morning. As you get in toward London, queues on the A1 between Apex Corner and Mill Hill Circus. We had the accident in Arkley along Barnet Road, the A411 near Rowley Green Road. And East Midlands trains reporting delays of up to 15 minutes from Leicester through to St Pancras because of a signalling problem between Leicester and Market Harborough. Could have a few late running trains through Luton and Bedford as a result of that. And looking at Milton Keynes Central, we've had one cancellation. The 8:47 service down to London Euston cancelled because a member of the train crew is unavailable. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thanks, Adam. 8:32. Here's the news and sport now with Serena Farrow.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Bedfordshire Police has apologised to Biggleswade woman for handcuffing her. She was protesting because she wasn't allowed to see her medical notes. Elsewhere, residents of Milton Keynes Council say an empty store, which Sainsbury previously occupied, is detrimental to the local economy. A Luton woman's warning people about a telephone scam which involves people handing over their bank details. And the Mayor of London is bestowing foreign workers with praise, as some business owners have admitted only employing Eastern Europeans for their hard-working attitude. Well, the JVS show is asking, is Boris Johnson right to question the British work ethic? Stay listening to hear more on this from 9 this morning. That's the latest. Now let's turn to all the morning's sport.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The Watford boss says he's happy they're in a comfortable position ahead of their next match on the road to Peterborough this week. It comes after Saturday's goalless draw at home to Championship leaders Cardiff. Turning to League One now, and hopes for making the playoffs remain slim after MK Dons were unable to get a win at the weekend. They had a goalless draw as well against visitors Crawley. But with the strength of his side, manager Carl Robinson's still hopeful.
I think the way we've been this year with these players coming back fit, I had to make changes once again with Pauli because they weren't fit to finish the games off, but the group looks stronger and stronger, and I think they're only going to get better and better. I just hope it's not too late.
Elsewhere in League One, Stevenage remain unbeaten under the returning manager after a draw against Portsmouth. It does give Borough a second consecutive clean sheet, though. And Luton are staying in the conference. The 5-1 defeat at Gateshead sealed their fate. It puts them mathematically out of reach of the playoffs. However, assistant manager Terry Harris says the remaining games are still important.
These games now have been all about really us having the opportunity to look at the players we have, looking at players that are elsewhere that could come in and be beneficial for Luton Town Football Club. Certainly for us to look at players and also for players to put a case forward for them.
Rugby now, and Saracens are through to their second Heineken Cup semi. They beat Ulster 27 points to 16 last night. And in other sporting news, Manchester United have signed a multi-million-pound deal with a company to name their training facilities. The deal with the insurer Aon is the first of its kind. And the winning jockey in the Grand National, Ryan Mania, is to have a precautionary scan in hospital. He injured his neck and back in a fall at Hexham yesterday. BBC Three Counties Radio, more from me at 9.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, 08459 455 555. Have you been to the doctors and asked to see your medical records? You can do it. Some may charge you a tenner, some probably won't. I'm keen to have a look now. I'm keen to find out what they're writing about me. They use acronyms. There's little... why is my brain frozen? Abbreviations, that's... You see, who knows what they're going to write about me? Abbreviations, some of them are quite rude. FAW. I can't explain. We kind of got away with it earlier on. It's got a swear word in it. Flip all wrong. There we go. I think I can get away with that. They write that sometimes. If you're a doctor, I want to know what you've written. 08459 455 555. And scams. A Luton woman wants to warn you about a telephone scam. We'll hear her story next. And the Daily Telegraph has suggested on its... lots to cram in the last 30 minutes or so. The Daily Telegraph suggests on its front page that the price of a first-class stamp could rise to £1 within 3 years. The warning comes from the campaign group Save Our Royal Mail. Would it bother you if the price went up? I think £1 to send a letter from St Albans to Glasgow. That sounds perfectly reasonable. Well, Justin Dealey has been in Bedford finding out. 08459 455 555 if you want to take part. Don is from Wickham. Good morning, Don.
Hi, Ian.
You've got another abbreviation from doctors, have you?
Yes, I have. It's Bundy.
Bundy?
Yeah.
What, is it clean? Can you say it on the radio?
It is clean, yes. But unfortunately not dead yet.
Say it again.
But unfortunately not dead yet.
How do you know about this, Don?
It was in the news a number of years ago.
Maybe that's because there was one I knew. Maybe that rings a bell. Maybe that was one I heard of. They're very sneaky, these doctors, aren't they?
Absolutely.
They must have hated it the day that it became legal for people to ask to see their medical records. Have you ever done it, Don? Have you ever stormed into your doctors and hit the desk with your fist and said, "I demand to see my medical history"?
No, I probably wouldn't be able to read it anyway.
Yeah, well, they've got the worst handwriting. Don, thank you for that. I'm tempted to do it. Can someone go and do it for us today and report back tomorrow? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Now, when you dial 999 because you believe you've been the victim of credit card fraud, you think you're safe. You think you're talking to the emergency services. But criminals are clever enough now to trick you into thinking you're talking to the emergency services. This happened to one woman from Luton, Sylvia Edwards, who spoke to our reporter, Justin Dealey.
I got this phone call from this gentleman who claimed he was from Barclays Fraud Department. He told me to look on the back of my debit card and there would be a number of lost and stolen to report, and there was indeed. And he said I should ring that number and ask for Mr. Dewani. So I rang the number and asked Mr. Dewani, and I got put through to this gentleman who said that my card had been used in Selfridges to the tune of £1,000 and also in Argos to the tune of £1,000. But they'd apprehended the people and they had them in custody. So they needed to act quick because they could only hold them for a few hours. So I should go down to my bank and draw out £6,000. And I said, well, I can't do that. And it's now 20 to 5. I said, my bank would be closed anyway. Well, I didn't go to my bank. And I just left it. And they rang back about 5:15. They said, well, have you got the money? And I said, no, the bank was closed. I didn't get the money. And going back, recapping a little bit on it, when I spoke to them in the afternoon, they said that I should dial 999 if I didn't believe them. And so I did dial 999. And they said, when you get through, say it's not really an emergency, but you want to speak to an Amish Roy at the Charing Cross Fraud Squad. So this is what I did. And again, I got another Indian gentleman who said, yes, we've been waiting for your call, and this is definitely true. Your card has been used, and we have got the suspects in custody. He said, so go back to speak to this gentleman at Barclays Fraud Squad. So I did. I phoned them back. And he said, now, I must know that I'm speaking to Mrs. Edwards. So I need to do a security check with you. So he asked me my date of birth, my mother's maiden name, what regular payments I make. So straight away now he's got all my security details.
Yeah.
So then he said, since you couldn't get the money out of the bank, he said, what you do, have you got a plain envelope? I said, yes. And he said, put the cards, because I've got 2 accounts with Barclays, put the cards into an envelope with 2 bank statements from each account, and a courier will call to collect it. So in about 15 minutes, so 15 minutes pass, and sure enough, got another call. He's outside. It appeared to be a minicab, and I handed him, with my stupidity, the envelope with my bank statements and the cards.
Now, by this point, you were in a panic and
Yes,
you were
I was.
dousing yourself.
I was.
So you phoned your son. You couldn't speak to your son, but you spoke to his partner. What did she say to you?
She said, oh, I think you've been scammed. I said, what do you mean? I said, oh no. She said, you haven't given them yet. I said, yes, they've just taken them about 5 minutes ago. So she said, look, I've got the number. I look up them quickly. I said, I can't look up the number of anything. But this time I was hysterical. So she got the number of the police. She said, don't ring on your house phone, ring on the mobile. So I rang Bedfordshire Police on the mobile, and they said, well, ring Barclays Bank. I said, I can't because they've got all my details. So happily, there was somebody there that knew the helpline number, and I quickly rang them, gave them the sorry story, and she said, don't tell me you've given them your cards and your bank statements.
Yeah.
She said, quick, let me check. Nothing's gone out. Nothing's gone out from your account, of either of your accounts. I'm going to block it.
Well, it's an incredible story, and it's the barefaced cheek of some of these people. Joined now by a very, very naughty man, Paul Wilson, who presents the BBC's Real Hustle. Good morning, Paul.
Morning.
You are a naughty man, aren't you?
Well, I pretend to be a naughty man, but I always give everything back.
You do. Many years ago, you won't remember this, I came and did a celebrity hustle with you, and it was incredible what you can get away with by wearing a fluorescent tabard. We broke into a lady's house, pretending to be from the water board, and nicked everything. It's incredible what people will believe, isn't it?
It is, but remember how dreadful we felt afterwards. I mean, that's...
I got told off. I got interviewed and they said, right, if you can just do a piece to camera and just tell us how you feel. And I went, oh my God, that was amazing. That was such a rush. And they went, yeah, could you do it again but with a bit of remorse, please? Well, have you heard about this kind of scam where people phone up and say, listen, if you don't believe us, call 999, they'll verify everything?
Yes, I have. And I think that, one of the things that works with scams is giving people some form of safety net which you've built yourself. So, everybody says, how could you fall for that? You must have been foolish or you must have been naive. But good con artists know exactly what you're going to ask and are ready for it. And they, in this case, what they've done is, without giving away exactly how they've done it, they've basically given you the ability to verify their story through a very well-known source, which of course 999's got to be the most well-known number in the country. So, you can listen to that lady's story, and if you were to come in halfway through, you'd think, well, why would she fall for that? But remember, she dialed 999. She was talking to the police as far as she was concerned. But they have intercepted that call, and she is talking still to those same people.
And these people are very clever. They really roll out the red carpet. They do all the voices. They pretend they're a receptionist and say, oh, yes, I'll just see if I can find him for you. They play their parts well, don't they?
Absolutely, and I keep saying this, I say it every time, we must stop blaming the victim for being a victim of a very clever charade. And you have a lady here, I'm listening to the lady on the phone, she certainly sounds very sensible. She absolutely did the right thing at the end of the day by verifying the story with somebody she knows, and that, of course, led to the cards being blocked. And that's one of the reasons why one of the first things these people say, especially when targeting the elderly, is, you shouldn't talk to your family about this because they're going to, and then they give some story about why they shouldn't do it. The fact that she did that means that even though she was caught up in the web of the scam, when she was giving away her details and then giving away the actual cards, the first thing she did afterwards, she didn't just trust that, she verified it and did absolutely the right thing. But, these scams just keep happening and keep changing and growing, and And, the only real way to protect the public is for the public to do two things. One is to be informed whenever a scam like this comes up. I mean, the more people find out about this, the better. And then to sort of think about, obviously we always say it's a very old saying, it's over 100 years old. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. But you have to stop and think about that. And if you're caught up in something, especially if someone's playing you, and, and once they've got the right tune, and you're dancing along, it's quite hard to stop and go, wait a minute. They've stopped me from talking to my relatives. They've made me do this very quickly. They've come up with a story that made me panic and act, Someone tells you that your cards have been compromised and someone spent £2,000 of your money. The first thing you'll want to do is something about it, and they give you that.
And these scams are evolving, aren't they? I think we're all pretty wise to the Nigerian prince who wants to get $80 million out of his country, and he's going to give you 25%. They are evolving and becoming clever, aren't they?
They all evolve. And, in America, they actually have some commercials where, somebody sits down at a table dressed as a Nigerian prince and gives the story, and of course it seems so ridiculous, and it's a commercial for credit card protection. But, just a couple of years ago, one of the networks there asked me if I could do the Nigerian prince scam on somebody today. And I said, sure, we've been doing it for 500 years. All we have to do is rewrite it. And that's exactly what we did. We rewrote it, created exactly the same scam with a different backstory. We did it in person rather than over the internet. And we did it with someone who was a very smart, very shrewd businessman. And we caught him. But he was a lot of work. I mean, we had to give him a lot of stories. But afterwards, he said, it felt like you were tailoring a suit to me. Not everything was perfect, because then I wouldn't have gone for it. It felt like you basically had my sizes worked out, and knew exactly where to put the buttons and press them. And I thought that was a great way of putting it. And that's just what a good con artist will do if he wants to get somebody in particular. So if he wants to get you, Ian, he'll figure out exactly what buttons to press. But what happens today is we have the internet. We have a very easy way of getting to millions of people. So now we create something that comes right off the rack, and whoever it fits is who they take the money from.
Paul, we have to end it there. Always a pleasure. Paul Wilson from BBC's Real Hustle. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Travel news now. Here's Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And starting with a quick look at the trains, we've still got delays of up to 15 minutes being reported for East Midlands train services running between Leicester and St Pancras. They've got a signalling problem between Leicester and Market Harborough. It means you could have a few late runners coming through Luton and Bedford. The A1 looking slow at the Black Cat roundabout. Then again, once you get into London, it's very busy between Apex Corner and Mill Hill Circus. The M1 hasn't eased off yet southbound from Bedford through to Flitwick. Still a bit of a queue there. And the M25 anti-clockwise is slow from Kings Langley at Junction 20 round to the M4 at Junction 15. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much indeed. Right, 8:47, it's Monday the 8th of April. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. A Bedfordshire woman has been handcuffed for trying to access her full medical reports. Police later apologised for their intrusive manner. Residents of Milton Keynes Council say an empty store, which Sainsbury's previously occupied, is detrimental to the local economy. And in sport, Saracens are through to their second Heineken Cup semi-final after beating Ulster last night. Coming up, Bedford's in line for a tourism boost if the town can lay claim to the burial place of the Saxon King Offa, according to local residents. We'll hear more before 9, but let's get the latest weather now. Here's Kate Kinsella.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, it's a bit of a different feel to the day than we had over the weekend. A touch of spring over the weekend. Today, it's a lot colder. Temperatures outside at the moment ranging between freezing and 3 Celsius. So parts of the three counties we have got still the odd pocket of frost. 1 or 2 showers as well, though, I'm afraid, already starting to move in through parts of West Hertfordshire, for example. And these are going to come and go through the course of the day. Some brightness out there. We're seeing a bit of hazy sunshine from time to time, but a predominantly cloudy picture and a breezy one too. A rather cold easterly breeze developing as we head through the day, leading temperatures to struggle. Maximum temperatures 8 Celsius, 46 degrees in Fahrenheit. Still 1 or 2 isolated showers around first thing this evening, but they will dry out, leading to a predominantly cloudy night. 1 or 2 clearer spells that will allow the temperature to drop, but early hours of tomorrow morning through to dawn, the cloud will thicken. Minimum temperature down to 1 Celsius, that's 34 degrees in Fahrenheit. For tomorrow, 1 or 2 spots of rain around, occasional showers. There's a weather system moving northwards towards us. By the time it gets to us, though, it's broken up, so the rain is more sporadic. Temperature-wise, tomorrow is still struggling because that brisk east-northeasterly wind will continue to persist. We're looking at a maximum of just 7 Celsius, that's 45 degrees in Fahrenheit, and that's your forecast.
Thank you very much. Now, Bedford is in line for a tourism boost if the town can lay claim to the burial place of the Saxon King Offa, according to local residents. Eric and Richard Compton say the recent enthusiasm of several cities to associate themselves with Richard III shows the potential in establishing a link with a key historical figure. King Offa is rumoured to have been buried by the riverbank in Bedford, as our reporter Justin Dealey tried to find out when he spoke to Richard Compton earlier this morning.
King Offa was buried in Bedford, there's no doubt about it. There is strong evidence here, it's just a matter of finding it. I think basically, history has gone downhill in one way or another, okay, but this is one way to invigorate, especially something for his town, there's no doubt about it. You know, I've done enough research now to look into getting maybe like a diving team involved. Let's have some action now, let's try and put something a bit positive into town, let's bring back history, the history mark of Bedford again. We are talking a very big job though, but we have to start from somewhere. It's like anything in life, okay, we need to put the investment into it, let's try it, let's see what's out there, let's try and gain the evidence. We have to be positive about it, and I think it's a great start.
Well, we can speak now to independent Bedford Borough Councillor Doug McMurdo, who's the council's portfolio holder for leisure and culture. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning.
What do you make of these local connections with King Offa?
Well, I think they're remarkable, and if we could get some evidence that was absolutely clear, then I'm sure the local community and the local council would do something to try and establish it. But I do regret, drawing comparisons to Richard III and that amazing find up in Leicester. We're talking of many hundreds of years apart. 1452 to 1485 was Richard III. We're actually going back to 796 when King Offa died. Now, there's no evidence, and I have to state there is no clear evidence. The nearest we can get to it was back in the 1200s when a Matthew Paris, a chronicler, actually wrote about the death and burial of King Offa, and he does in his account suggest it was in Bedford, but no specific location. The word near to the Grey Twos and near to Bedford is used frequently in many accounts of this.
If there was a direct link and that could be established between Bedford and King Offa, what benefits are there for a town? Is there a bit of cash? Is it a money spinner?
Well, like any history and any cities like York, for example, they have great tourist attractions there just with the history. St Albans, just down south of the county, with that amazing cathedral there. I mean, certainly these things can attract a lot of tourists. But, we will quite soon, on the 21st of June, be reopening the Higgins Bedford, the Borough Council's Museum and Art Gallery, and we've got lots and lots of history in and around the town of Bedford.
Now, this is on the site of the Bedford Riverside development, which some people are saying is a little bit controversial. Could this be a ploy just to cause problems to that?
Well, like any development, and I'm not going to talk about Riverside North specifically, any development that's in or around an area that there is any suspicion of archaeological remains, it's incumbent on the developer to carry out proper and thorough tests. So the Riverside North, just to mention that and just to take it out of the equation, that will be subject to very, very clear studies. So
OK, we have to end it there. That's Bedford Borough Councillor Doug McMurdo. Thank you very much indeed. Paul from Flitwick. Paul, Paul, sorry, hello, yes?
Yes, hello.
You're right, who are you talking to then?
Your other half.
Oh, a work experience Ollie is not my other half. I can assure you that my wife would be horrified to think I was dating a 19-year-old boy. Now, again, right. Now, Paul, what have you got about King Offa?
Well, The only King Offer I ever knew was when I was brought up. Well, I lived in St Albans, and there's a King Offer in St Albans in the Cotton Mill Estate, and that's called the King Offer, and that's been there since. Well, obviously I'm over 50 and was there when I was 17, 16. Why has it been called the King Offer?
So there's a pub that's called the King Offer, and that must mean there is a historical connection.
Well, from Bedford to St Albans, I don't know, is there?
Well, I don't know. To be honest, were you aware of who King Offer was, apart from a boozer?
No.
This is the thing. This is the problem, I think, because people are saying, "Oh, it's like Richard III." Shakespeare didn't write about King Offer. Not many people know who he is.
Well, I've heard of Richard III.
Yeah.
Obviously, because he was a king. But
Offer was a king as well, Paul. Paul, listen, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there with the memories of the pub, just because I need to squeeze in Justin Dealey. Justin Dealey, good morning, sir.
Hello, Ian.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine.
Now, listen, we've got you on because the Daily Telegraph is suggesting that first-class stamps could go up to £1. I kind of think that's not bad value. If you post it... Where are you now, Justin?
I'm in Bedford. I've been looking for King Offer. Now I'm talking stamps.
If you posted a letter from Bedford to Glasgow... And £1 seems like perfectly good value to me.
But if you posted a letter from Bedford to Luton, would it then be good value for money? At the same price, of course.
Get the bus. You've been out and about asking people about this, haven't you?
Absolutely. Some interesting views. I'm in Bedford this morning. I've been asking people, is £1 too much? And this is what they had to say.
Sir, £1 for a first-class stamp, if it was to go up to £1, is that just way too much?
If it was local, it would be quite a lot of money. But if it means the post office has to survive, what is the alternative?
Do you prefer to pay that price as long as that service stayed open? And you, in actual fact, think if it was going to Scotland or somewhere like that, £1 might represent good value for money?
I would have thought so, yes, every time.
Now, Bill, you send quite a lot of letters. If the price of a first-class stamp went up to £1, how would that make you feel?
Well, I think it's disgraceful, really, that it's that price. I think, really, that they ought to think of getting themselves more efficient. At one time, years ago, you had the post first thing in the morning. Now it can be any time.
So if it was to go up to £1, would that put you off writing letters to friends and family?
Yes, it would. It would definitely put me off. We already cut down on Christmas cards and Easter cards because the price of the stamps. Already, yes. So we don't want any more increases, no.
OK, well, what is your message to Royal Mail this morning, then? Because clearly you're concerned about this, you're not happy about it, you use the word disgraceful. What is your message to them this morning?
To get their act together and be more efficient and competent and try and not increase the price, but bring the price down, if anything, but certainly not increase it.
So you send quite a lot of letters. £1, is that too much?
No, it's not too much. Not for me. It might be for some people. But I like to receive cards and letters, so I just feel it's nice to return them rather than electronically.
So even if it went up to £1, you'd still carry on as normal? It certainly wouldn't put you off sending any letters like you do at the moment?
No, not at all.
OK, thank you very much indeed for your time. Sir, what's your name?
Jim.
Jim, £1, is that too much?
It could be too much for some people. I don't send all that many letters. As I mentioned to you, I do a lot of my correspondence by email, so it's hardly too much for me, and a lot of official correspondence has an automatic reply, a free post reply. But I think for some people, people on low wages who want to send postcards and birthday cards to their grandchildren and things like that, it can be a little bit problematic.
Justin, do you send many letters? Oh, Justin, sorry, you're there. Do you send many letters?
Well, I was thinking about this earlier. I cannot remember the last time I sent a letter, even at Christmas time. A lot of it now is on email. I honestly can't remember, genuinely, the last time I sent a letter.
I had to post some car insurance documents last week. I'd have paid £1 for it. And I don't send Christmas cards. I don't send birthday cards. I think they're a con. They're complete...
Oh, that's lovely of you. Yeah,
they're such a con. I'm not going to spend £5 on a birthday card. For goodness' sakes, I'll buy a nicer present. But I just think people have to realise everything is going up, and going up from 60p to £1. I don't see a problem with that.
I mean, most people there didn't have a problem with it, but you heard the words of the Bill there. He sends a lot of cards already. The price at 60p. That's putting him off sending Christmas cards and Easter cards. So if it went up to £1, of course, he wouldn't have that regular contact with his friends and family. Dealey with the letters. That would certainly affect his life.
Justin Dealey, excellent stuff as always. Thank you very much indeed. Don't forget, if you want to get in touch with me when I'm off air, ian.lee@bbc.co.uk, IAIN.LEE at bbc.co.uk. Travel news now, here's Adam Glynn.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
And looking at the speed sensors, it's still slow on the M1 southbound from junction 13 at Bedford to 12 at Flitwick. M25 anti-clockwise, heavy traffic approaching the roadworks. So coming from Essex, junction 26 at Waltham Abbey through to 25 at Enfield, the A10 junction, and then on into the roadworks. Of course, we've got the 50 mile an hour restriction. Then once you're out of the works, it's queuing from junction 19 at Watford to 16 at the M40. The A1 still looking slow at the Black Cat roundabout. The A1M is now looking busy from junction 4 at Hertford through to 3 at St Albans. If you're going in toward London on the A1, though, things starting to ease off between Apex Corner and Mill Hill Circus. And good news in Arkley, because the Barnet Road is now clear at Rowley Green Road. Delays on the trains, though, up to 15 minutes worth for East Midlands trains, Leicester's at St Pancras because of a signalling problem. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Adam. That's it from me today. Back tomorrow at 6. JVS is up next. Until tomorrow, ta-ta.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Ian. Good morning. Welcome to the JVS show. I'm Jonathan Vernon-Smith. It's Monday. And on today's Big Phone-In, I'm asking, is Boris Johnson right to question the British work